hyenas did attack one of our tents in the
Oh,
middle of the night.
wow. Oh my
And of course,
gosh.
it was right next to my tent because my boys are right next to my tent. And I thought it was it was the most horrible sound, Tam. It was literally, it was just vicious sounding.
Oh my
And I
God.
thought it was killing my guys.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just screaming to them. And I heard Mateo say, he calls me mom. Mom, I'm okay. I'm okay. Everything's good. I got under control. I should know because I'm with my my Maasai warriors, and they've always got the machetes with them and everything. And they were good. They were good. We had a slaughtering camp that day, and
Did they
we
have to
had
kill the hyenas? Is that how it
no,
works?
no, they scared them
Just
away.
scared them
And
away.
then thank goodness there's always dogs, and on all the villages there's a ton of dogs because the dogs help them with herding and help them with hunting. And the dogs came to the rescue as well. And just it was just so, and that's all the barking and growling. It was just all between the dogs and the hyenas. And it was so bad. Of course, in the morning you wake up and the tent's all shredded, but we had put meat, all the extra meat that we had left over in that tent. But we had done it before and we'd never had a problem before. And it was just, again, it was something that we had to go through, and just to show us that, at any moment you don't know what's out there.
Well, Suzanne Alexander, a big warm welcome back to the Your Body's Way
Oh,
podcast.
Tam, thanks for having me back. It
This
seems
is,
like it's just by the blink of an eye.
I know, and it really genuinely has been a blink of an eye because you were on your last expedition in December. So
No,
was it
no,
December?
really, no, because we left in. I gotta go back. We left in October and we
Oh,
came back
that's
in
it.
November, and then you and I talked, I think, in December. Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's right. That's right. Do you know what? I looked at your Instagram and I saw a post from the Pacific Islands expedition, and it was in December. So it
Yes.
must have been after
Yeah,
your
because
expedition. Okay, that
again,
makes
like
sense.
I've got, Kim, I've got hundreds of thousands of pictures and videos, and
Right.
it's just going to take me, because when we're on these expeditions, we're in such remote areas that we can't share everything because we have hardly no internet access. So then I have to, when I come home, it's like purging. You
You've
have to
got a
just kind of put
purge.
everything out there. It's like, so it looks like we're still there, you
Right.
know?
So if you came back in November, so November, December, January,
And I left
February.
February 1st.
So, oh my God, so that's like 4 months in between. I have to ask Suzanne, like, what made you want to go on another expedition so soon after your first? What
It was
happened? I didn't know this was
it
going
was
to be
I'm telling
happening.
you, well, this has kind of been my whole life. It's been because when I was a little girl, my grandmother was living with tribes.
Mm.
And it was just, I just knew that at one point in my life I was going to follow her footsteps, but in a different way. And so when we were staying with the Dani tribe and then with the Vanuatu, and I was just so in awe of how they lived. It was so beautiful. I didn't want to leave them. I didn't want to leave. And that's when I knew. I thought, and of course, and then God, he works in mysterious ways, and I just didn't know if I had the strength to do anything alone, because I've always been with somebody. I've always gone with someone. And even when I was performing and modeling, I always had my agents with me or something. So I was never alone. And so when I was there, Chris had gotten sick a few times and I had to go alone.
And for listeners, this is Dr. Chris Kenobi,
Yeah,
the
sorry.
co-author of
Yeah.
of your
He's
amazing
my
book.
buddy.
Yeah, your buddy.
He just said, you're gonna have to go alone. And I was like, oh, but I was good. I was great. I mean, I was right there, but I had my translators with me. So I really wasn't alone. Of course, God's always there with me, holding my hand. And when I was doing that, I just felt he was telling me, it's your time now. You have the courage and the strength to do this. And so I kind of went on the way home and on my flights home and everything. I just started really thinking about it and praying about it and just kind of put it out there. And it was just so powerful.
Mm.
And I just, again, I do prayer, and I started researching and researching, and one thing after another kept falling into place, and then I found the most perfect guide and translator. And it just all fell into place. And, and that's what I did.
And do you know what? I can see your eyes welling up ever so slightly when you talk about it. So I can see that you're so touched by this whole experience that you've been on. And the strength that it took for you to go on your own after your whole life just thinking that you weren't that type. That must have been an amazing experience. So when you were coming back from the African expedition, which we're going to talk about today, how did you feel? How did you feel about this, about, this new you, the you that can do things on your own? Like, how was that for you?
It was amazing because it was, I could just see everything from the moment of my birth. Everything happened for a reason. And I had to go through the trials and tribulations of everything from health issues to everything, all the devastations that have happened in my life. And each one was that building block to give me the strength and the strength to finally just say, you can put yourself in a really, really dangerous situation. And no matter what, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to go to paradise and be with God forever. And that's the most beautiful thing in the world. And it was so powerful because we were in some really dangerous situations at times, and very scary. It was like a fear factor
And
constantly.
that was going to be my next question. So can you dive into that a little bit more? What was scary? What was frightening? Did you ever feel at risk, in
Oh,
danger? Tell us. Yeah.
to me, I felt, and I have phobias. I mean, my biggest phobia, of course, is, and I normally have never been able to say this word. This phobia is so bad. And it's not just a fear, this is a phobia I have of
Mhm.
snakes. And this is like, I just finally could say that word 2 months ago.
Oh, no.
And
My mom's the same. She can't open a page with the picture of one. She
I'm
has
the same
to fold
way.
it over.
Literally,
Yeah.
literally, it is just the thought of it. And when you're there, you have no idea from moment to next if what you're going to encounter. And it was kind of the same way in the Pacific Islands, but when we were with the Dani Tribe, we were up so high in the mountains that there weren't any because it was too cold in that region. So I was, oh, I don't have to worry about it. So that was great. I was perfectly fine. But when you're in Africa, you don't know from one moment to next. And of course, your bathroom is the great outdoors. And our campsites were in the great outdoors, and from one moment to the next. And so, and I had to go to the bathroom by myself.
Yeah.
And you're venturing out into you don't know where, and you don't know what you're going to step on.
Yep.
And in the nighttime, it's so dark, and you don't know, and you can hear the hyenas, and there's wild animals everywhere. You
Mhm.
don't know. And we did at one point, we had hyenas did attack one of our tents in the
Oh,
middle of the night.
wow. Oh my
And of course,
gosh.
it was right next to my tent because my boys are right next to my tent. And I thought it was it was the most horrible sound, Tam. It was literally, it was just vicious sounding. And
Mhm.
I thought it was killing my guys.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just screaming to them. And I heard Mateo say, he calls me mom. Mom, I'm okay. I'm okay. Everything's good. I got under control. I should know because I'm with my Maasai warriors, and they've always got the machetes with them and everything. And they were good. They were good. We had a slaughtering camp that day, and
Did they
we
have to
had
kill the hyenas? Is that how it
no,
works?
no, they scared them
Just
away.
scared them away.
And then thank goodness there's always dogs, and on all the villages there's a ton of dogs because the dogs help them with herding and help them with hunting. And the dogs came to the rescue as well. And just it was just so, and that's all the barking and growling. It was just all between the dogs and the hyenas. And it was so bad. Of course, in the morning you wake up and the tent's all shredded, but we had put meat, all the extra meat that we had left over in that tent. But we had done it before and we'd never had problem before. And it was just, again, it was something that we had to go through, and just to show us that, at any moment you don't know what's out there.
Did you encounter any snakes?
And this is the most amazing thing. I always would pray on it. And I was ready. I was ready. And when we were at the Hadzabe, because they're known to have pythons and things everywhere, um, Mateo didn't tell me because he knew I had the phobia. He didn't tell me,
I
but
don't know
after
if
we
that's a
got
good thing
done,
or a bad thing. Like,
he
should you know
said,
or
he
shouldn't
said,
you? Like,
he said,
yeah.
Mom, he said, I need to tell you. He said, I cannot believe that we didn't, he goes, they should, because there's rocks and things. He goes, they should have been everywhere. And here I'm climbing them and
Oh
I'm
my
not thinking
God.
about it, you know, and they probably were there, but
Thank
I
God you
didn't
didn't
think,
know.
I just didn't think to look, you know, because I was just so enthralled with everything. And and he kept, and of course, every time we would go anywhere, I was right on the feet of it. Like if you need to see videos of me and we're hunting, I'm right on the feet of I didn't want any space because anything that I wanted to thought if they're gonna be there, they're gonna scare them away because I'm gonna be right on, you know, so I would stay right whoever I was with.
Yeah.
Um and I'm telling you, Tam, not one,
You didn't see one.
not
Oh my
one.
God, your prayers were answered
I'm
for
telling you, it was,
sure.
I was so ready. I was really ready. I thought, I'm gonna beat this phobia. And I didn't have to worry about it.
And the thing is,
It,
they're not small ones either. Like
no,
these are the ones that these are the serious ones, like the
massive.
big
Yeah, and
ones.
the cobras. I mean,
Yes,
you
yes.
know,
I
you
mean,
just don't
here
know.
in the Cayman Islands, we have small ones. And
They're
I didn't
scary.
tell when my mum came, I didn't actually tell her that actually sometimes I see them, sometimes. That
Yeah,
they're quite feeble and they're quite scared. So they kind of rush off when, you know, they're around. But I didn't tell her, and I only told her when she got home, and she was like, "Oh my God," she's like, "I'm never walking there again," because like they could pop out at any time. But they're
that's
like,
so,
but they make me cringe as well. So when I see one,
yeah,
I go, "Ah," like
yeah.
kind of like get a
It's like,
physical reaction.
yes,
But in Africa, they're not small.
no,
They're dangerous and they're
it is.
big.
Yeah,
And the fact that you went out there to face
yeah.
that, that's
Yeah, and
huge.
I kept thinking they're going to be intrigued because I mean they're just everywhere you go, you know. And I just thought, are they going to be I mean, you just it was just total fear factor 24/7 for me. It was, and
Wow.
because animals, I'm not really afraid of. I mean, I love animals, so that didn't, you know. Yes, the hyenas, I was scared. I was just, you know, scared of being mauled and I mean, but I think the biggest fear for me was
There is that.
seeing the
The
phobia. I was like,
mauling.
oh. You know, would want to get my tent. So I was always making sure everything was always zipped so thoroughly, you know, you just, oh.
What would you say? I mean, this sounds like a huge challenge that you're talking about, but what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you had to face out there? So obviously danger from
Mhm.
animals,
Yeah.
but what else? What other challenges did you face out there?
I did worry about malaria, because I was being the tribes weren't being attacked, but I was bitten to smithereens. I was just like covered, and they couldn't believe it. They could not believe how covered I was. I mean, it was just, you know, on my face, huge welts, and all of my arms and legs, and I was just literally scratching. And I kept thinking, am I going to get malaria? But interestingly, also the soups that they create, that they make, especially the Maasai, they're known to be anti-malaria and they're to be able to heal things. I mean, just such healing powers. So I kept thinking, well, I'm drinking a lot of this soup. I'm drinking all these healing things. I'm eating all this healing food, you know, there's chai tea. And I just felt, you know, it's in God's hands. And so really, the only really thing I was, yes, I knew there's a lot of potential things that could happen to me. And of course, I had my bouts of diarrhea because that's an ongoing thing throughout my life. You know, we just deal with that. But I didn't, that was really that was really anything else was, there was no other fears, really was nothing else I was concerned about.
Because I remember with the Pacific Islands, you fell sick
Yeah,
out there. So
same thing here.
did you get sick in Africa as well?
Yeah, I had,
Yeah.
matter of fact, it started on my way. I get to Amsterdam and I'm starving at this point. I'm like, I'm so hungry. And I couldn't find something to eat. And I searched and searched and finally I found this place and it said 100% beef burgers. So I'm explaining to them I've got celiac disease. I'm telling all the food allergies I've got, you know, be sure you scrub you know, the place you're gonna cook. I don't know seed oils, no grains, no glutens. And so, you know, they're kind of wiping it down. And so I get four of them, thinking I'll eat two before and two on the plane and all this. And I take my first bite. I'm like, oh, golly, this tastes an awful like the burgers I was getting in the Pacific Islands. It tasted like it was mixed with grains to make it look like it's more meat than you're getting.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, and you
Right.
know, within a short time, it was the diarrhea started. So that was a rough plane ride for me.
Oh gosh.
And
What a way to
and of course, as
start.
soon as I get off the plane and I'm in Kilimanjaro airport. I'm like looking for I'm looking for another bathroom. I'm panicking. And I found, so it was just, it was kind of like the start of it. And that kind of happened a couple times throughout the whole expedition. And we just dealt with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so your Africa expedition, we all want to know what you were going for. Where did you go? Who did you go with? Like just diving into everything. So first of all, I'm sure everybody knows by now, but if not, you co-authored the incredible book, got the name Ancestral Diet Revolution. So yeah, I absolutely love that book. I was thinking about it the other day actually, and I was just like, I really enjoyed that book, and I'm not just saying it. I think it's really great for even the layman, like the person who doesn't understand, seed oils, but they want to know a bit more. It's just full of data, it's full of information, but it's written in really clear layman's terms, which I absolutely love.
Thank you.
And so you went on the Pacific Islands expedition in October, and you wanted to do this for yourself, like Weston A. Price style. You wanted to go there to the remote locations and see if they have seed oils in their diet. If not, like how does it affect their health? And so you've done it again with Africa this time. So, I mean, where did you go? I mean, because I know you've got some slides. I don't know if you want to pull them up or you just want to kind of tell us everything. Just tell us what you
It's up to you,
found.
Tim. What would you like me to do? What do you?
Let's go for it. Let's pull up those slides
Okay.
because I think it's time to figure out where you went. I know you went alone. You had some translators. Um, like
Okay,
what
can you see it?
happened?
Can you see it,
Yeah,
Tim?
I can see.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
All right, so this is I'll just toggle through them really quickly. So
Mm,
this is again where we started with Pacific Islands, and this is the region that we flew into. And this is showing where Chris and I came from. I came from Syracuse, Chris came from Denver, but he was already over in Australia
I
doing a
remember.
little Carve Down Under conference there, speaking there. And so we thought, what a perfect time. We're all about, I'm a budget girl. I will do anything I can to just save money. And I don't stay in lush posh places. We stay in places where there's going to be rats so
That's
I'm
fun.
not that,
It's good
people say, oh,
practice
you're
what you
not
had
that
to
fun to
do.
travel with. I'm like, I'm a budget gal. And for this one, we were going with the foundation, Ancestral Health and CureAMD, the money that our donors provide for us, that's what it goes for. And so that covered these expenses. And so that I was budgeting because it's the foundation's money, and I want to make sure
Mm.
it's used properly. So these are the islands we went to in terms of the Pacific Islands. So we first started in Jayapura. And so these are some of the people that you'll kind of meet as we go through this real quickly.
Yeah. I
So
recognize
here we
those from
are.
Instagram. Yeah.
You're gonna think, I've seen these, Sue.
I know those guys.
So here's over here in Jaipur. So you can see our flight. It was quite an extensive flight. Okay. It took me about, I'd say 32 hours to get there and to get to Melbourne. And then we fly from Melbourne to Bali, from Bali to Makassar, and then from Makassar to Jayapura. That was our first island that we were going to go to. So this is over in Indonesia. We're in Indonesia at this point. So here we are, and I'm thinking, oh my golly, this is really as tribal as I thought it was going to be,
Mm.
So this is more, they call this their city, okay? And there's really no high rise. When I think of city, I think of New York because that's where I live,
Mm.
New York City, although I don't live in New York City. But so this is their mall, and in their mall they had a grocery store, and in the grocery store and seed oils were everywhere,
Mm.
and it even said our best seller. So seed oils were popular. I was like, what? And of course, their popular seed oil was palm oil.
Mm.
Okay, palm oil is about a 10 to 12% linoleic acid, and everyone's like, oh, that's not bad. But when you add it up and it's in everything that you're eating, if you're eating
Mhm.
processed food, it really takes a toll on the body. And we did notice that there were some people in this region that were overweight, obese. You could tell that, disease was striking. And again, but the thing that was really interesting is I was looking at their processed food. Oh, let me go back again. Sorry. And you could see that their processed food up here is made with palm oil.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, I wonder what ours is. So when I got home, looking at ours, look what ours is covered with. Ours has corn, cottonseed. My goodness.
Right.
Cottonseed, safflower, sunflower. We have the worst of the worst.
Soybean.
Yeah. So we've got ours in the United States is just loaded with the worst of the worst, but theirs wasn't too bad. I thought, well,
Mm,
bad, theirs is better than ours. So that was impressive. And I noticed that in a lot of their food, a lot of their processed food did not have ours. Theirs had just the palm oil.
right.
I thought that was not bad, not bad. So again, the most prevalent seed oil in Jayapura was palm oil. That was not too bad, but we did see health issues. Then we go to over here, you can see we go to Wamena. Now,
Mm,
Wamena is way up in the highlands, okay? And this is where the Dani tribe lives. So we take a little tiny
mm,
airplane that gets us up there, and we get there, and our Rami, who is our translator, our guide, he takes us right to their market, and this is where a lot of the Dani people come down and they sell the things that they're growing because they're
mhm.
more agro. They're not pastoralists at all. They grow things, and mostly they're growing sweet potatoes. They grow cabbage. They grow, different vegetables, and they do it. There's fruit everywhere, Tam. I mean, I kept saying to myself, "There's no way that anyone could go hungry here because
Mm,
everywhere you go, there's just fruit free for the."
yes. It's like
It was
abundant.
absolutely, yeah, just miraculous. So this was the first tribe that we went to. There was a large tribe, and this is the Dani tribe.
Mm,
And of course, I have everything covered because
yeah,
you don't want it to be taken down.
of course.
Um, and they dress scantily.
Yeah.
And so the women are, just have like a little grass skirts on. The men have what's called the kotika, and that only covers, their private part, and it's
Hmm.
one of the gourd that they decide what shape they are going to have, and it's held by two strings, two cords around their waist, and that's all they wear. And at first, it kind of took me by surprise. I mean, I knew because I'd studied them, but to be right there, and it's kind of like, what do you do, But after a couple of hours, you don't even notice it anymore. So it's like,
Did you
oh,
did you feel under pressure to sort of take off a
yeah,
layer or two, or
you
did you
know.
feel overdressed or?
Not at all, because and I didn't feel, I didn't know if I would make them feel, gosh, she's got an awful lot of clothing on, but I didn't even
Mm,
think about that. I just didn't want to make them think that I was staring, so I was just trying to
right.
divert my eyes and things. But after a while, you just don't even think about it
Yeah.
anymore, And the longer I was with them, the more I just kind of felt a part of them and so
Mm,
accepted, And they were very welcoming, very, very welcoming. Um, but you can see if you look very, really carefully, Tam, if you can see, let's look how thin over here.
mm,
This man. I thought he must be in his 90s. He was missing most of his teeth. Very frail, very, very
mhm,
frail. A lot of the men looked very frail. There were some that did have some look a little bit of muscle going on, but they just looked very frail. They aged very, very rapidly, I felt. I thought the women looked older.
mm.
Again, remember, these people are mostly consuming about 90% of their diet is sweet potatoes.
Right, right. So
And
is
they
what is your theory then?
as we go through, you'll see.
Right, okay.
I'll
And
start
so
to say,
I mean there's
that's
a
how I'm kind of describing how they look, because that's really,
yeah.
watch how they're looking. Their dentition. I was studying to be a dentist years and years and years ago. And that's one of the first things I notice is, I look at their eyes, but their teeth, and they were lacking. I mean, a lot of their teeth were
Right.
missing. Very, very poor dentition. Some had pretty good, but most, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
so
mean,
that's a
so the
sign.
man that looked about 90, how old
Yeah,
was he? Because I'm looking at him now and yes, he's very frail. Do you
very,
ever
very
find out
frail.
how old he was?
A lot of times they don't know. And
Oh, they
he
don't.
says,
Okay.
he said, maybe 80. He wasn't sure.
Okay.
And this is across the board. Even in Africa, they don't keep track of there's no birth records.
That's
So
interesting.
it's all
Yeah.
guessing. And but even the younger people and the women and so forth, but the children, you'll notice, coming up, I'll show you a picture. But this is their village, very similar again to in Africa. The grass roofs or whatever they're going to do, their sticks, but they don't use the cow dung. They don't use it because again, they're not pastoralists. So it's just the sticks, and the grass roofs, and it's very, again, dirt floors, and that's how they live. The men, of course, live in the men's hut. The women live in theirs, and it's again very the same thing in Africa. Same thing.
Mhm.
Now, if you look at this, this is the chief over here, and in this previous one that we just looked at, this right here is a mummy. right here. It's a 370-year-old mummy
I
of
noticed
Zoom
that.
clan. Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is the relative of Chief. This is the same Mabel. So he was a
Okay.
relative, so it's always the family name passed on
And it's
down.
really interesting how they pose with the mummy in the photo, like
Oh,
they're a person, like
that's
he's
like,
got his hands
that's
on
a
his shoulders,
cherished,
like,
that's a cherished
yeah.
thing. When they bring that mummy out for you just see, it's like, ah, it's like they just, you don't touch it. It's like, oh my gosh. Now over here, if you notice the children, they've the descendants, the abdomens
Yeah.
are kind of ended.
Yeah.
That's a sign of kwashiorkor. And that's a type of malnutrition characterized by
Mhm.
severe protein deficiency. So when you
Right.
see that protein, they're not eat, they might eat pork or chicken maybe once or twice a month, and it's not much.
Mhm.
They revere the pig. As a matter of fact, they live in Wamina. Wam in the Dani language means pig. So
Mm.
they named the area, the
Mm.
village after the pig, and there's wild pigs and pigs
Oh,
walking everywhere, but they really don't want to kill them, especially their own.
yeah.
And so and maybe once a month they'll have that. So again, it's very low in protein,
So
and you can,
what is their diet? So it's 90% sweet potatoes, and what makes up the other 10%? Would it
well,
be that
they've
the
got fruit, they've got the
right?
fruit that they've got hanging. They like cabbage. Cabbage is becoming big. And I really think that they're starting to add in more ugali, like I'm seeing across
Mm.
a lot. I'm seeing a lot of the ugali coming in. But again, they really are living a lot on sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are everything and
Mm. So would you say the protein deficiency is the
extreme.
reason for
Yeah.
their
And
aging?
also, yeah, and their teeth as well, because we
Mhm.
need the vitamin A, the K2. They're getting plenty
Yes,
of
the
vitamin D.
fats. Yes.
And it's the fat soluble vitamins and the K2 especially, I'm thinking is what they're missing. Vitamin A is also crucial. But the K2, I mean, Wesley Price talked about that, and it's what I was seeing. I thought, my golly, they're lacking in so many important nutrients. And you'll see that in another tribe in the Pacific Islands that was not just plant-based. They were about 50% fish and chicken. And what a difference. What a difference in how they were aging and how they looked. So again, it's really, and it's the same thing I found in Africa as well. So it was
So
pretty,
so
it's like,
so they have these, yeah, so
oh,
you find these in tribes across the
yes,
world. Wow.
yes. And so we're
Your
moving
next
on.
book's gonna be insane, Suzanne. Like, it's gonna
Oh,
be insane.
it's just so remarkable. It's, oh my golly. So now so that I've always, as an educator, I've always, because I was always teaching my students about, diets and where our food came from. And I was always wondering about salt. And, in our region, most of the salt you think of is they go to the water and then they dry it, they let it dry, and if they go to the
Mhm.
ocean or whatever, or salt springs. And I said, well, what do they do here? And so they took me up. We had to climb and this is where Chris got injured at this point, because he already
Yeah.
had knee injuries. And so climbing this mountain, we get to the top and there's a small salt spring. And so we go over to it, and this woman who's guiding us, and she's had another Dani man came with us as well. She's carrying this banana stalk with her. It's not a banana, but it's like part of the tree. And so she's got a stick and she's scraping it and scraping it, and she's taking layers and layers off, and she's literally just removing the fibers. So she's allowing the cell structure to be able to be attained into the water, which is next. And she jumps into the salt spring. And I thought, oh my golly, I've got to join her, So she's got the different pieces and she's squeezing and twisting and turning, and she's allowing the water to penetrate into the cell structure, cell membranes of this banana. And it's genius. I thought, my golly, they figured this out over the years, that this is how it's going to absorb this, And so then she does it about a half an hour, and then she wads all these layers up into a ball, and then she takes it back to the tribe where she's going to dry it. And now they've got, of course, when I'm there, she's asking me to taste it. And I'm like, oh my golly, it's not really salty, but there is a salt taste to it. And so this is where they get their salt from, is from this spring.
And
And
I
it's just
suppose
like,
there's no limitation to how much salt they should have, like it is for us. I mean, we're like
yeah,
6 grams a day and no
and
more,
it's,
3 to 6
yeah, and it's
grams,
just,
but
but I will say across the board, they don't really use a lot.
okay, because it's not
Spices are
available or
not,
because
it's not important to them. They don't think
okay.
it's necessary. They think it's in the food. So they
Mm.
are, anyone that we're hearing saying we need all this salt, 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 it is not at all prevalent. As a matter of fact, in Africa and with the tribes, salt, they don't even care about salt springs. It's not even thought of. It's not an issue. It's not an issue with them. But I thought that was really neat how that's how they do this. It was
Because
pretty fascinating.
we're thinking about salts and electrolytes and, add salt to your water. And so what would you say to that after your experience?
See, I've never been one for that. I've
Mm.
tried salt and I get puffy eyes. My fingers, everything gets puffy. I don't like it. I'm not a salt person. I never have been. I feel I get what I need from my food. Like I feel everything I do, I get from my food. I don't take any electrolytes. I don't take any supplements. I
Mm.
don't take anything. I just
Yeah.
eat from the earth.
Oh.
And I think, and of course, the tribes all agree. They're all like, huh? When you ask them, if you look at any of my Instagram chats and you ask the questions, they start laughing or they chuckle. They're like,
I
you
bet
know,
they do. They're like, why
they
do you
can't
have so
believe it's
many
like,
rules?
yeah, what's wrong with you people? You know, this is not how we're designed to live.
Yeah.
So this is the next tribe, another Dani tribe. This is a smaller tribe. They're very small, just a very small area. And so this over here is Rami. He's my tour guide and my translator. So we go in, and of course the women show me their kitchen. This is what they're inside their huts, and it's beautifully lined with fresh grass. And it's very lovely smelling, just very organic nature. So then we go in, and of course, Chris was sick this day. And so I had to go alone with Rami. And they were just so welcoming, and they're just showing me how they go. And they over here, you can see that they're harvesting their sweet potatoes. They have all colors like you can't imagine, every variety you can imagine. And they're just pulling them out of the ground. It was just so neat to see them, you know. And then they go down to another spring, and they're washing their potatoes and the sweet potatoes, and they're washing some of the greens and so forth that we had picked. Now here you could see that we've gone way down into the valley, and of course I don't really know what they're doing because I didn't know with this earthen oven. I studied all this, but I just wondered how are we going to prepare everything. So we go down, we get all these greens and sticks and everything, and they bring them all back. And of course you can see that they're moving all the time. These people don't just sit around. They're busy. They're moving. They're not sedentary. And so we come up to the back up to the into they're I call it the boma now because I think of Africa, everything's boma, but they don't call it a boma, but that's what we would call it. And
What is Boma? The
a
bonfire?
boma in Africa is the area, the village. Some people think it's their hut, but that's not. That's not, the hut is their hut. The boma is where the family, because it's usually a clan, a family who lives with all their huts,
Mhm.
and then it's also where their livestock is also housed at nighttime, which you'll see. I mean,
So
it's
it's where they
it's
all get together,
it's
congregate.
all encased
Mm.
and protected from the environment because they usually have, a fence they've made with trees and things and all put together. It just protects them from wild animals that can come in and kill their animals. So again, over here, I just love this picture. You can see they're trying to start one of the fires. This fire is going to be to cook the stones. So so they put tons and tons of stones in this blazing fire that they get going. And then over here, you can see where they've got the fire going. They've got the stones all in there, and they're going to cook and get really extremely hot, scalding hot. Then over here, oh, hold on. Over here, hold on. Oh my goodness. Sorry, Tam. Over here, you can see that we've got another hole, a pit. This is going to be the oven pit, and we're lining it with all different kinds of greens, foliage, and so forth. And that's where we're going to put, eventually, we're going to put all the stones in there, and then all the potatoes on top of that, and then more stones, and then they wrap it all up, which is you're going to see. So over here, we've got the pandan fruit. And because I was there, it's rare that they're going to do it, but they picked a huge pandan fruit, and it's
That
known
is
to be
huge.
very
It's like
good.
the length of his forearm.
Yes.
Huge.
And I'm thinking, oh, let me eat the inside of it because I've never had a pandan. And it's not. They discard everything. The only thing they want are the outside seeds, which they're just going to extrapolate. They're going to cook it in this oven as well, and steam it. And that's why all the green foliage is, because the water in the plants is going to literally steam all the food because the rocks are so scalding hot. So you can see here they've made like a forcep type thing that's going to be able to pick up a clamp, and it's going to pick up the stones when they're hot, and they line the hole here.
Mm.
Okay, this is the earthen oven pit, and then they put the potatoes on top, and there's hundreds that they're going to, because again, this is going to help to feed the village as well.
Mm.
And then they put more stones on top of that, and then they put the pandan fruit on top of that, and then they bundle all up. Oh, I thought I had that picture there. Did I? No, I did not. I was trying to, I had over 500 slides, Tam, so
Oh,
I'm down to like 100. So I
okay.
put a lot of
I was going to
slides.
say 500.
It's,
We might be
oh,
here all
so
day.
they bundle it all up, and it looks just like it's amazing. So they tie it all up with all of these leaves on the outside here. See all these leaves right here, and they bundle it all up over it and tie it all up, and then it cooks for an hour, and it steams everything, and then they undo it, and then it's just like falling apart. It was so decadent, so decadent. I could not believe how good it was. And the pandan fruit, they gave me some of the here's the fibers of it, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I'm kind of watching what everyone's doing with it, and they're just chewing on it, getting the liquid out of it, and then they spit it out. They
Mm.
do not eat, they do not swallow the fibers. And then she takes the seeds over here in this pan and she squeezes it out into a juice. And so I was taking my sweet potato and dipping it into it. It was kind of bitter. It was not sweet at all. Not sweet at all. I was kind of, oh, but with the sweet potato, it had a really lovely flavor.
Mm.
So
Did you feel
again,
satisfied after a meal?
I did, because they kept giving
Nice.
me sweet potatoes. Like
Mm.
before, even while this was cooking, we went back into the kitchen and we sat, and they're giving me another sweet potato. So I was eating a lot of, and of course I haven't had sweet potatoes in a long time because I kind of watched my oxalate level, and I thought, I wonder how I'm going to do with this.
And
But another thing Pam, is they smoke incredibly, a
mm,
lot, and I kept thinking, why aren't they coughing? I was coughing like and there's smoke from the fire, there's smoke from the cigarettes, there's smoking constantly. And when we were climbing the mountain, there was no wheezing, there's no emphysema, there was no sign that they had any breathing problems. I was struggling because I'm not around smoke, and I mean, it took me days to get over that. I thought, oh my golly, it's burning everything, But it's amazing because we wrote about this in the book. That is it because their diet is so clean
mhm,
that they're able to ward off any kind of physical, impairments caused from the smoke. I don't know, but it's remarkable. But I also wonder, is that also impacting their teeth and their gums? They're chewing tobacco. There's a lot of stuff going on
mm.
that you just kind of question. Is this
Did,
all
did your
impacting?
did your because I know you have difficulties with oxalates. So did you get any flare-ups?
Not, no, and I know this may be a little bit too much information for people, but if you've ever heard of vulvodynia, it's
Yes, yeah,
extremely painful, and I get that.
yeah.
And but I didn't get it. I did not get it at all.
Do you
And
have
it
any
was really,
theories as to why?
maybe it's because I haven't had it so long. Didn't
Okay.
have time to build up. I don't know,
Mm,
but I will say that the whole time that and we didn't like in this, and this is kind of why I wanted to go alone and do my own thing, is because I didn't want to stay. I wanted to live with a tribe.
mhm.
And Chris was not, if that's not part of who he is,
Yeah,
I want to be right in there, And so he wanted to stay in places where we could have a shower and a toilet.
yeah.
But the place that we stayed was serviced by only Dani people, and
Mm,
the chefs were only Dani, and they made the most. Of course, they knew I had severe allergies, and they made the most pure, clean food. And I did not have 1 ounce of trouble at all the whole time I was there. I was diarrhea free, and I felt
wow.
fabulous there. So very healing. It was
Yeah.
just beautiful food, very, very minimal protein. I was really, really hungry. And I left at 112 pounds. And by the time I got home, I was 105.
Wow. And
So,
that's a
but
lot for a small
yeah,
body.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so, and I'm 5'8". So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah. So my doctor was like, you really should be weighing at least 130. I said, I didn't weigh that when I was pregnant. So I've always struggled with
Wow.
weight. But anyway, and when I was vegan, I was 95 pounds. So yeah, and I was eating 3,000 calories a day then. So I do struggle with weight, but I had a lot of diarrhea, so I was losing a lot of weight just because I was draining from me.
Mm,
And then we came across these little things I call them these shacks. I'm like, what is this? And of course, you can see you can't go in. You cannot go in. You can only stand outside here. And this woman would stand behind the the like screen there, and you just tell her what you want. They've got all different kinds of things in there, but they've also got cigarettes, they've got
mhm,
seed oils, they've got candy, a lot of processed food, chips and things like that. So the tribe, they don't have cars. They walk everywhere, and they're barefoot. They
mm,
totally are grounding constantly. It was remarkable. They do have access to seed oils. And I did notice that they also had containers in their in their homes, in their huts, that they would go get water with. And the container was the seed oils, old seed oil bottles. So I'm thinking, oh, are they using it? Are they using it? There's a possibility. So Chris and I, we surmise maybe like 10% maybe that they're using seed oils, and it is starting to happen to come into their diet.
But nowhere near what we're consuming.
Oh, absolutely
Nowhere
not.
near,
Absolutely
yeah.
not. No. And so again, we visited some stores in Wamena before heading up to the highlands of West Papua, and we found again palm oil. That was the in that region, it's palm oil. So again, it's not as bad as it could be, especially now knowing what I've seen in other regions. This gold star for these guys. Although I still say, guys, anyone watching and listening to this, please, seed oils, even the 10 to 12%, that's unacceptable. I just don't believe that we need the seed oils. It's not ancestral. It's not from the earth. I don't think we should be anything processed. It's not healthy. It is not healthy at all. But again, and then there's cigarette smoking. I was concerned, is this impacting their health as well? So then we go from Jayapura to Wamena. So now we're going to fly. And this is where I ended up having another issue, because we had to take 5 different flights to get to
I'm just going
Honiara.
to plug in my
And that
laptop.
was,
Keep going,
okay.
keep going.
Yeah. And so this was, so going to Honiara, it took us 5 flights. It was a 32-hour, no, that was a 35-hour flight, I believe. And because we kept taking off and landing, it took a toll on my ears, and I lost, at first I thought I lost complete hearing in my left ear, but it slowly came back. So I have just some minimal hearing loss now, in my left ear.
Still,
So
from that experience.
yeah, just constantly taking off, landing, taking off, and landing. It was just so much pressure. The cabin pressure was just too much on the ear. So now we go to Honiara, the Solomon Islands.
No.
And look what we landed to. I just wanted to show it. It was so, I got the plans. Like, okay, this is going to be fabulous. They were just so beautiful and just so welcoming. And so this is in the Solomon Islands. And of course, Chris really wanted to focus on that we were doing seed oils. He was really focused on, unless we want to go to stores. So that's really what was the focus of this trip. And so we did. And of course, the seed oil here that we found, the most prevalent oil here was palm oil again.
Once
But
again.
boy, they really are into processed foods here. It was
Right.
not, to even find tribes that are still living ancestrally was really difficult. We found some people that were, living way out in the bush, and but they said that they still are consuming some
So
of
it is
the.
penetrating
It's there.
villages,
It's
and yeah.
so there.
Okay.
And so it was very disheartening.
But what I
Then we
noticed, and
go,
with all the photos with the oils, there's always a small section though. So if you go to a
yes,
supermarket
except you'll
in
see
our
there's like,
countries, there's like sunflower oil, canola
oh,
oil, palm oil,
massive,
like
massive.
a massive, like an aisle
Yes,
worth, like
but
half an
their
aisle
stores
at
are
least.
small. Their stores are very
Okay.
small compared to ours, very small.
Yeah.
There was a couple larger ones, but nothing like our mega ones, nothing like ours. So but there were a couple that we did find that had the big walls, and you'll see those. So then after we went to the Solomon Islands, then we went to Samoa. All right, now Samoa they're known to be very tall, very healthy. They were very, very healthy, and it was shocking what we found. So we first go, and there's a lot of beautiful produce. I'm thinking, oh, we look at this.
Yeah.
They're
Farmers
really into,
market,
from the
stunning.
earth. Oh, just beautiful. I mean, very organic. These are all organic. Nothing. They don't use pesticides here. This is just very natural, very healthy. I slept so incredible there, Tam. And I think a lot of it's also there's hardly no cell service, and EMFs were really low because I'm very sensitive to that. It was
Okay.
just so healing. There was very clean, although there was a lot of garbage. It was extremely dirty, especially in the Solomon Islands. Garbage, oh my golly, plastic. It was just, I was so sad, so sad. But we met, Ho was our translator, and he took us to one of his friends' home, who lives pretty ancestrally. They do have seed oil infiltration in this family, but they live extremely ancestral. And so you can see his name was Livingston. He's 82 years old, and they live very ancestrally. This is their outdoor kitchen over here. They don't have a kitchen in their home. There's a counter with a sink, but there's no stove. All the cooking is done outside. Here he's got, there's, of course, his whole backyard is just like, the Garden of Eden. It's just got every fruit you
Mm.
could imagine, just absolutely beautiful. They can just go pick and it's all there. So here he's doing coconuts and he's preparing, they're going to show us how to make, they make coconut milk because that's what they really mostly cook in. And Tam, when I asked them, what about coconut oil? Because we're just told, oh, coconut oil,
Yeah,
coconut oil, we don't cook with that. I'm like,
really?
you don't? I said, well, everything I researched says, so we don't believe everything we research. She goes, no, we don't. We've never cooked with coconut oil. I said, well, what do you cook with? Coconut milk. And then the coconut, what do they call it? There was another thing they call it, coconut cream.
Coconut
He said,
cream.
and I said, well, how would you make the oil? And they said, well, that takes a long time. You'd have to sit it out, and it could take days, and it would just be a little tiny bit. And he goes, we wouldn't use that for our skin or our hair, but that's about the extent of it. So really, coconut milk was what they were cooking everything with.
Wow.
And I was like,
And
wow.
we, yeah, and we've made coconut oil this big deal over here.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, to cook
it's
with it.
not at all.
Mhm.
And all the islands said the same thing. I asked that same question because we even wrote about it, coconut oil, coconut. No, it's not at all. Not at all. And so this is the outdoor kitchen over here. Just got the little fire pit here. And he's cooking over here. What's in here is a
Yeah.
sea eel. A sea eel. And
I
of
was gonna
course,
say, it
the
looks a
whole
bit, yeah, it
yeah,
looks
yeah,
like an
and of course,
eel.
I'm going, ugh, kind of reminds me of the phobia. I go, oh, we're gonna have that. And oh, yep. And I knew my grandmother always said, you always eat the tribe serves you. You always are gracious. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then
You
over
ate
here,
it. You ate the
yeah.
eel. Good for you. Good for you.
And so over here, we've got another cassava plants and things that they're cooking. And of course, what are they cooking it in? Coconut milk. Everything's
Mm.
cooking coconut milk, and it's their own. It's fresh. So here they give me my first coconut water that I've ever had, really fresh, 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 and it was just so delicious. Now, again, coconut and myself, we don't do well, and I knew it was going to cause a problem,
Mm.
and it did. It
Right.
was still so
So it doesn't
delicious.
matter where you are in the world, you will have a
It didn't
problem with
matter.
coconut milk.
I said
Okay.
I'm just going to have to deal with it, but it was so good. Over here, you see Norman. This is Livingston's nephew. He's showing us how they're scraping the inside of the coconut. It goes into a pan down below. And then they take like these, it's like a fiber, and they wrap it all up into it. And I have videos on my Facebook and all of my social media, and you can watch them actually doing this. And they squeeze it out and squeeze it out, and the milk comes right out into the pan. And it's just wonderful. And so that's how they make it. It's all by hand. It takes a lot of work, but this is how they make it. So everything we had that day was freshly made. It was so exciting. And of course, the eel that here living since 82, he had gone down to the ocean that morning and had gone and gotten that eel fresh.
Wow.
And then a neighbor knew we were coming, and a neighbor brought over here a dove.
A dove.
So they don't have
Wow.
chickens. They just whatever they catch in their yard with a dove. And so they had cooked that over the fire, the dove. And so our meal was fresh coconut water, the fire cooked dove, fresh caught sea eel cooked in homemade coconut milk. We had taro leaves cooked in homemade coconut milk, breadfruit, which we write about it in our book, breadfruit and bananas. Then even in Africa, it's a special kind of banana. It's not the kind that we think that we eat. That's the green. It's sweet, and you break it. It's easy to eat. This is almost like a potato.
So is it plantain?
No, not at all.
Oh,
I can't remember the name. I'll tell you the name of it once I'm sorry, I should have written that on here. But it's the same thing in Africa. I was amazed how popular it is with the tribes in Africa. Same thing, the banana, but it's not the kind that we eat. But they do have those, but this is a special kind that they cook, and it's very starchy,
yeah.
very much tastes like a potato, but very, very starchy, and they don't cook it for very long, so it's kind of hard. But that's what we had. And then they had Cocoa Samoa, which is like a chocolate, a hot chocolate almost. And of course, I get migraines from chocolate, and I'm thinking, am I gonna get sick? So I just took just a little taste of it, just a taste. I did not have too much because I didn't want to have to deal with migraines. But that was our meal, and that's a typical meal that you would have.
Do you know, I could actually eat that now. That
Yeah,
looks quite
it
delicious.
was really lovely, very, very lovely. And the eel was full of bones, small little bones. I just like kept pulling bones out of my mouth. And it was okay. It was okay. It was okay. I was just grateful. I was grateful that to try something so ancestral. It was just beautiful. I can see, how it would be very, very nutrient full of nutrients. So again, here's, you can see that we did find some bigger walls
Mm.
in
Yeah, that's
Samoa.
more like it for,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
and
more
this
like
is,
what
they
we
had
would do.
larger stores, and we found the most prevalent oil again was soybean. However, because when I'm on the go, I will eat tinned fish. So I'll either eat canned salmon or canned sardines, and I always get in spring water. So I was really looking at all of their tinned fish. Chris had never thought about it because he doesn't eat tinned fish. And I said, I need to find out what they're packed in. And so I looked at them, and most of them were packed in soybean oil.
Oh.
And so I started telling, because they eat tons of canned fish in a lot of these regions. So I was really trying to teach them or preach to them, please look for the tinned fish that's in water. And they didn't have hardly any. I was pretty bummed out to find in most of these stores, they were mostly in oil. They didn't have
Mm.
the option. So I think that's where a lot of their stuff is coming from, is not just the processed food, but also their tinned fish, because boy, they eat a lot of it, a lot of tinned fish.
Interesting.
So that was kind of sad. Coconut oil is rarely used. Got to remember that, guys. It is not a big thing there. They primarily, like the other islands you're going to see, coconut milk or coconut cream was the preferred fat that they cook with. Yeah, interesting. Then after that, we go to Vanuatu. Now, Vanuatu is where you're going to see a difference between the Dani tribe and the Vanuatu tribe. So here we are, and this man, he says he's pretty sure he's in his 60s, and he was just, and he's like one of their warriors. He walked on coals, hot fire coals, in bare feet, and I was like, okay, this guy's got
They look a lot
got some kind of
stronger than
weight.
the first tribe.
Amazing, and his teeth
Yeah.
were beautiful,
Yeah, like
absolutely
the big
beautiful.
smile, like big
Yes,
shoulders,
all
like
his teeth were there. And
mm,
just, and you know, when he would flex, he had muscle tone. You know, you can see that they've got, you know, you can see their abdominal, they've got their some abs, or they got some really good obliques showing. The children look really healthy. You know,
oh,
she
they're
looks like she's, oh
gorgeous.
darling, hold on here.
The
She's got a
girls are
little bit of a
stunning.
distension on this belly here, but I just think, you know, sometimes little children just do. Hers was not as big as what we noticed. But in talking with him, he said that his the main diet would be mostly fish was their go-to, because they live so close to the ocean. They can go right there. Again, the Dani are so high up, they are not
Mm,
near any, they can't eat it, there's no fish. So they
right.
don't have the access. These guys do. So again, location is everything.
So a lot
Um,
more protein in this diet for sure.
Absolutely,
Yeah, and you
absolutely.
can
And
see.
they're getting omega-3s, you know, which is again so healthy for our skin and brain, of course, brain health. Their hair was beautiful, everything. They were just glowing, just glowing. And even the women were just beautiful. And so what a difference. But they also ate an awful lot. They said sweet potatoes and cassava and taro are very big here, and bananas again.
Mm,
So and of course they cook again with coconut water and coconut milk, and drink coconut water, and so again, big difference in diet and how they're aging. Big difference, big difference.
mm.
So we found again the most prevalent oil and was palm oil, but when I went to look at their tinned fish, which is big there as well, they had a huge section of waters and spring water
Right.
and so I thought, wow, then water was much, and very, let me go back also to the Solomon Island. Tam, we only found one person on the street walking that was actually within normal weight. The rest were either overweight or obese. It was
Really?
enormous what we saw in the
And
South,
was that a
in
surprise for
Samoa.
you?
It was enormous. I was like, I thought, yeah, we probably see some, but to find a healthy looking person who looked like that they were, you know, their body mass index, that they were really within a healthy range. We had to search for those, and that was in Samoa, but in Vanuatu, everyone was so healthy. It was
Mm,
just health everywhere. And you could tell when you went to the stores, they really cared about what was on the shelves. It was, what a difference, what a difference. And there's a video that I did make on that where I had Chris, I said, be sure because I was teaching him, he didn't know about looking at the tinned fish because he doesn't eat that. And so then I said, we have to talk about this. So we were always going to the tinned fish section, especially when we get to Vanuatu. We highlighted, look at this whole section of spring water and water, tinned fish. So it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
wow.
The next island we go to is Fiji.
Mm,
And on the way there, Chris gets sick. Now he's got a lung infection going and he's just not feeling well. So he says, you're on your own again.
Mhm.
I'm like, all righty. So I go with, but I'm not alone. Remember, I have a translator that's with,
Yes, yeah. But
and we
still, like,
go.
it feels like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
way.
and I don't
Yeah.
know this man from anyone else. I'm just like, who is this person? But he was wonderful. And so we go to the settlement here. And if you look way out here on our way, you're on the ocean here, and look at there's a person standing here. They're getting their shellfish, they're getting oysters and clams and so forth. I thought, oh, look at this. They're still, it's just so neat to see that they're still ancestral. So the first Fijian settlement was built along this beautiful beach where they could go fishing and of course collect clams and everything each day. And of course, you can see that the man's out there. Now here's the village. You can see it's becoming modernized. It's not no longer the grass
Mm.
roofs. They're getting the metal roofs and so forth. It's becoming more modern looking. So this first Fijian, they arrived in around the 1500s. And many of the villagers are, of course, direct descendants of these original settlers. So I was like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to talk with them. The homes, of course, are becoming contemporary. No more thatched roofs. I was going to show pictures of the people, but they were all overweight. And I didn't
Right.
look like I was picking on anyone. And I was so disheartened. So when talking with them, I said, do you add seed oils? And they thought it was great. They thought it was a great thing to tell me because they said, well, we've heard it, they're healthy. And I
Mm.
said, well, what's the one you use the most? And they were said, soybean. I'm like, soybean? Oh no. And they said, but
The
sometimes we
worst of
also
the
use mustard.
worst.
Yeah. And I said, sometimes we use mustard seed oil too. And so I had, I wasn't preaching, but I wanted to say, well, guys, it's better to go back to your ancestor ways. I said, go back to if you're using coconut water, coconut milk, those kinds of things. And so I explained to them, they were shocked, absolutely shocked. And so I hope that I was able to help some people to rethink what they're doing. But so then again, I find one of these small little shack like things, and I go inside, and of course, what's their prevalent oil on the soybean?
Would you put it down to anything else? So they have the seed oils, but is there any other part of their diet that you think, okay, that's also causing the
Um,
obesity?
because really they're really eating a lot of well, if they're doing processed food. Again, if they're
Mhm.
doing
Right,
processed food,
processed
there's
food.
so
Yeah.
much. And if I mean, I haven't had processed food in, since I was probably 20 years old because I just knew. But the thing is that it's not even just the seed oil. It's everything. When you look, you can't even pronounce half the things that are in there. It's all these colors, it's these dyes, it's these different, additives. There's so much in the processed food that our body doesn't recognize. And it's
Mhm.
just why? It's the same thing to me with supplements. Supplements are just so you're inundating, and if it's not natural, it's either you're having expensive urine, you're just
Mm.
taking it all out, or your body doesn't recognize it and it's taking it in too fast. It's too much. You're overloading. If you're doing copper, if you're doing zinc, you're balancing. The body doesn't know how to adapt and acclimate to all of that. It's
Mm.
not natural. We get through food, so and I think it's a lot of all of this. Then of course you got the glyphosate, but these guys are not living where there's that thought. So I can't say I know where we live. I can address that, but where they're living, they don't have all the pesticides that we do. And
And it's
so
interesting how they still get the health problems that, I mean,
yes,
they probably don't get all the health problems that we have, but
no,
they
no, but the
obesity is
obesity
one.
and the
Yeah,
diabetes, I'm sure is
right.
happening, and cancers are starting to happen, are approaching into there. And we'll talk about that when we get to the tribes in Africa, because the elders were sharing what they were starting to notice among their tribes.
Mm.
And it's disheartening. So then I thought, oh golly, I knew that there was a Hindu temple, and I just wanted to see if I could talk with a monk to see what their diet would be. And
Yes,
so
if anyone
I did,
knows, it's the monk.
you know,
Yes.
and so I didn't know if he would talk with me. I didn't know if he would, but and there was one there, and so he's the priest that actually is there. So I spoke with him. His name is Priest Deepak, and he said he gets up in the morning at 4:30 in the morning, and he starts the day with a cup of warm water. Interestingly, that the tribes in Africa, they all talk about having warm water because they feel it's a wonderful way to settle their stomach. It cleanses their stomach. So warm water is it's a neat thing that a lot of them are all into it. So I now start my day going out with the warm
I was
water
going to
thing.
say, like, have you
It's
taken
really
that with
neat.
you?
I
Yeah.
like that feeling. It's very comforting, very comforting. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
then after his morning prayer, he'll have an orange. So he's very much of a vegetarian. At
Yeah, I'm
first I thought
looking. There's no
vegan.
meat here.
I
Yeah.
thought vegan, but I can't say vegan because dairy is very big with him.
Yes.
And so at lunch, white rice, dal with yogurt made from cow's milk. That's very prized with their religious beliefs, cow's milk. And then 1 cup of black tea at 3. And of course, his calorie intake, I thought I would be starving, just absolutely starving.
Yeah,
Dinner is
imagine.
roti flour pudding with curry, beans, okra, or eggplant. There's not a lot of bulk there. There's just not a lot of calories, protein, very, you know, but again, hopefully he's getting what you can, but look at him, he looks wonderful.
He does. It looks
He was
well.
my age. He was in his 60s and he looked great. He
Yes, he
looked
looks
really
great.
good. So I think again, it's the cow's milk. And I'm going to talk
Mm,
about that a lot in Africa, which you see what we're going to learn about in Africa. Not what we've been led to believe. Not at all, Tam.
looking forward
Um,
to this. I need to know.
it's just so remarkable. So, and then of course, before he goes to bed, he has another cup of warm water. But just a very simple diet, more plant-based, very plant-based, but that milk is the key to his health. I really believe that. I think if he didn't have that, I think he would have a lot of issues going on. But that was my take, especially after what I've gone through in Africa. So look at this wall.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, okay. The
That looks
whole thing
more
was
familiar to me.
it was almost all soybean oil. And I was like, golly, this is a lot. And it was on both sides. And of course, it was spread throughout the store as well. And so soybean oil is 53% LA.
And
There
what
was
should it
soybean
be?
oil
Like what in from your book, what should it
about
be?
2%.
2%. So
In
it's
ancestral
53%.
ancestral
Yeah.
diets, they had under 2%. Some would
Mm,
be like 0.6%. So yeah, and so if you can keep it 2% or under, because we don't need a lot. Yes, it's an essential nutrient, it is essential, but not a lot. It's not a lot, and we get it in everything. It's in everything we eat. LA, it's even in plants. But it's in small amounts. When you inundate your body with this, and especially I think that with the indigenous people, that we've been gradually getting it. It started like in 1920s, it was slowly coming into our diet slowly. So our ancestors have slowly been getting it. And so now, but these people are just getting it so quickly. I think it's impacting their health even in a faster rate than it has with Americans, because we've had it for a long, long time in
building
our,
up over time.
yeah, we slowly learned to adapt. Our body is adapting. They
Mm,
haven't, so they're having more issues. But anyway, so and then when they talked about the mustard oils, that's between a 12 and 15%, similar to palm, but still it's causing a problem. To see that almost the entire area where that settlement was, that they were really overweight and some obese, I was disheartened again. So very sad. So again, I'm just recapping what I just said. No need to say that all over again. But again, soybean was the big oil there. It's very sad, very sad. And of course, what do we experience? Everyone else says, oh, you live such a glorious, glamorous life. You're traveling the world.
glamorous.
It's not glamorous because I said we're putting our life at danger,
Oh
and I would
gosh.
give my life to save a life. And that's what I just feel. We're at risk, but it is what it is. And Chris, of course, he started out, he injured his knee. So he was on a commission for quite a while with that. My legs, you can see I don't do well with insects, although I wasn't sure I could have contracted something when I got into the salt springs, because it was wherever the water was. So I don't know, but that was awful. The burning, the pain, it was worse than poison ivy or poison oak, anything I've ever had before. Then of course my ongoing diarrhea, and I lost 7 pounds in that trip. Then Chris came down with a lung infection and he was out of commission. And then of course I lost partial hearing in my ear, but slowly it's coming back. I'm hoping it'll eventually come back, but I still
Yeah.
haven't gotten it all back yet. So those are the health conditions there. So it's not as glamorous as anyone thinks it is. That's what happened. All right. So now we enter the African
Africa.
expedition. So these are the players. These are the tribes. So we first went to the Hadzabe, and that we did two different Datoga tribes, and you'll see that they live differently. Then we went to the Iraq tribe. Then we did two Maasai tribes, and then I did the Sanjo or the Batemi tribe, and
Okay,
those are the
okay.
tribes we're going to go to.
Right,
So
can't
again,
wait to hear about this.
here we
Yeah.
are in Tanzania, and over here, this is where, so a lot of our tribes were over in this region, right around Lake Eyese, and so this is where we're going to start the beginning of our trip.
So you're just next to Kenya, like you're just
Yes,
on the border
extremely.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when we go to the Maasai region, we're right next to Kenya. And there's so many exciting things that happen during the, and again, even the tribes were all saying, you must have some connection to God because we've never seen anyone, they were saying you're so lucky. So this is my team that
Mhm.
God brought me. And this over here is Maneno. And he was going to be helping me with food because we weren't sure how my body would handle this. And for this, I want to just let you know, Tam, that I didn't have the foundation cover any expenses. This is from my life expense, my life savings. I paid
Right,
for all of this.
right. And what better
Because
thing to spend your money on, you know? Like what
I've been
else would you spend
saving
it on?
forever. And I just thought
Yeah.
if I could give back to anything, it would be to go and try to save people. And I would love to be able to give my own life savings for that. And I didn't want to keep using the foundation's money because there's other things that I felt we could be doing with that.
Mhm.
And so Chris kept saying, no, no, no. And I said, no, I said, this is my gift to the world. And I just said, I need to do this for me and for the world. So it's my gift. And so for Maneno, he was my chef that was going to help in case I had issues with any of the food. So
Mhm.
he was always watching over me and he was a lifesaver for me many times.
And it looks
But
like you
of
feel
course,
really safe with them. Like, you know, you're
I was
holding hands with one, you've got your arm around the other,
they were
like
just
you
my I
you
just
feel
love them.
safe.
And this is
Yeah.
Mateo, and he was my lead guide and my translator. And this is Tembo, my driver and also my translator. Maneno could speak a bit of English, but he and I could communicate, but it was broken. But he was just and he studied me and studied me because he's been a chef for many, many years and he understood exactly what I could and couldn't handle. And so he always had everything ready for me. And then of course, Meg, this was our campsite, our first campsite.
So this time
And
you're staying with the tribe.
we
So
are
you got your
right there with the
wish.
tribe.
Oh
We are right
wow.
there and
Good
right
for
out in the
you.
bush. There's no running water, there's nothing. And so this was where the boys would sleep. And then this is my tent. And I traveled with my tent. I brought it with me because I have such allergies to any kind of smell. So it's almost like an organic tent where there's no chemicals have been used. It's no waterproof, no repellents that would cause me to get migraines. And so that was my tent. And of course, I've got beautiful videos on where it shows the Hadzabe because they hadn't had people stay with them before. They had to clear the area, taking out stumps and so forth for us. And they were just so, I was like, it was like crying because it was so beautiful that they cared so much to help us clear the land. And of course, this is some of the tribe members. And this was my bathroom.
A silver bowl and a toilet
The,
roll.
the
Love
bowl, the
it.
bowl is, I would take this is my bath. And of course, this
Oh,
is so every morning, Maneno would get up early and he would get water heated up for me and he'd put
oh.
it in this bowl for me. And I would go out into the bush and I would just kind of, splash water on my face. There's no, you don't hit soap or you don't have anything. You just kind of splash water on you. And that's what the tribes do.
Would you wash with your clothes on, or did you feel comfortable enough to
I
take
didn't
them
feel
off?
comfortable.
Yeah,
I
I'd
couldn't,
feel the same.
I just didn't, because you just don't know who's going to walk by at any moment.
Yes, yeah,
And it's even when you're out there squatting and you're going to the bathroom, you're
yeah,
just, I'm like behind a bush somewhere and just
yeah.
being someone or my phobia, something doesn't come
Mm,
out. So that's what I would always take with me is I would have the bowl with the water and my toilet
mhm.
paper with me. Now the tribes don't use toilet paper. They use leaves.
Okay.
And I was gonna do the leave thing, but I thought, watch me have some reaction. And then I've got something going on down there too, So I thought next time I come back, I'll do the leaves. I'll do the leaves. I couldn't do it. So that was our bath. That was my bathroom every day. I just, so the water is just to cleanse yourself with, and then you just squat and you go to the bathroom.
Did you drink the water? Obviously you did drink the water, so that was a silly question, but
We
did you have to
did,
do
we
anything to
boiled.
it?
We
Boiled it
boiled the
first.
water. And of course, I really wanted to do, and you'll see what I'll talk about this coming up. I did want to try their water, but because I was already having issues with some of the things that we were eating,
Mm,
the boys were like, Suze, it could really do you in, and then your
yeah.
expedition's over. And I thought, oh, true. Okay, not this time. I said, next time I come, I'll try to slowly start incorporating because I drink spring water from our own spring here, but it's nothing like theirs. So I
It's
didn't
not,
want to risk it.
yeah.
This is their village, Tam. Look how amazing this is. But I want you to look carefully. You'll see plastic stuck in that they found
Oh,
around
yes.
fine things, and they use it to plug up holes.
I can't
So they're
believe the
trying to
plastic
use
gets that far,
well,
into the wilderness.
and they walk, they will walk, and I'll tell you that this is some things I was really disheartened about. You'll see as we go along. They will walk 10 miles into a village region where they will get certain things that they need, and some of it is cigarettes, some
Mm.
of it is marijuana, but I think a lot of times they're growing their own, I believe, and also they do grow their own tobacco because they chew and they also roll, which you'll see pictures of, but they also drink heavily alcohol,
Really?
very heavily,
Wow. Heavily as in how much?
extremely heavily. And
Like
I
morning to
asked them,
night?
we were questioning because we were always like trying to smell. We could smell the marijuana, but the alcohol was very, and some of the men was extremely heavy. The women, when I was sitting and talking with them, and they didn't want me to, at one point, they didn't want any recording. They just wanted to sit and talk with me. And I talked to them about the alcohol, and
Mhm.
they said to us, they said, without alcohol, life isn't worth living.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
so many people talk about, and I thought I had this delusion of, oh my goodness, they're so happy, they're so happy.
Yeah.
They aren't.
Oh,
I- that they're used. And I said to Mateo, I said to my boys, I said, guys, and these are Maasai I'm with, they're Maasai. And I said, are you sensing that they're depressed? And they said, it seems that are they using the alcohol to like numb how they live? And I asked them, I said, do you like how you live? And they said, we love how we live. We wouldn't change it. We don't want to go out. And that part's recorded. The men, I asked that to the men. So if you want to go back onto any of my sites, you'll see, you can hear all the recordings of the interviews. And they said, oh no, we've had people that have gone and they come back because it's just, we don't feel good. We get sick. And but they drink heavily, and I was so disappointed. In the smoking, they smoke heavily too, and a lot of coughing in the men, a lot of coughing from the men. The children, I noticed that the children had the same thing in the Dani tribe. The children had a lot of runny noses.
mm.
They didn't have the distended abdomen, they didn't have that, but they a lot of runny noses. And I thought, oh, but they're adding a lot of ugali now. The reason being, I'll
What
show
is
you coming up.
ugali?
It's they take corn, maize,
Mm.
the flour, and they mix it with water, and then they've got this like a very thick like porridge, and they a lot it's huge among all the tribes now, and I'll
Mm.
explain it as we go along, Tam. It's just
Can I
and
just
of course
say though about the what you were talking about, the depression and the alcohol, like that really is surprising because
I was
we think the
devastated.
Westerners, like we think, oh my God, so if you live in a tribe, like that's the simple life,
Yes,
that's the
but
life, that's what we're built
but
for.
I think there's a reason why, and you're going to see as we go
Okay,
along,
so it
because
unravels.
I
There's
was
more to
with
this
them.
story.
And a lot of people go and stay with the tribes and stuff, but are they truly staying with the tribes? Most of
Mm,
the people go and stay in a hotel, then they come back for a couple of hours, and then they get their pictures and their photos taken with them, but they're
mm,
not really living with them 24/7 and with them, and
mm,
really talking and becoming so connected with them, where they tell you everything, and you see everything, and you smell everything. And so I went hunting with them, and my guys, and we are all with them, and it was so sad because they're sharing because the government has taken most of their land,
mm,
and so they don't have the big animals are gone because they're sharing their land with the Datogas and the Iraqs who are pastoralists. And
mhm,
so they've got this cattle all roaming, and they've got bells on, and all this is scaring away all the big game, the bigger animals that they would want to hunt, and they have nothing. And they couldn't find, we would see the hyena tracks, we would see the different, the different, animals and so forth that they could get. But because you hear all these bells of the different animals, there's nothing for them to hunt. And
mhm.
so they found on this one, you can see he gets a small little bird, a red-billed hornbill. And I was so happy for them. I was like, oh, I got videos. I'm like, oh, I'm so proud. And they were just smiling, like smiling, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I felt so sad because that's not enough to bring back to the tribe. So they start a fire and they cook it, and they each get a little piece of this little tiny bird, and they
I
offer.
remember that video. That
Yes,
video, I struggle to watch it only,
it was
but then
so
it's so,
sad.
but it's silly though for me to feel that way because this is the way
This is how they live,
people eat, and it's
but it's not ancestral anymore because they're
yeah.
not getting the large game, the big animals that they normally can get. They're hoping for the best,
Mm,
And then So then let's look for some honey. Let's look for some, and they spent hours and hours looking and looking and looking. And of course, I've got videos out. I think I posted a couple on these. I'm going to be putting more out. And it was just taking for so long. And they make these little pegs right here, and they put them in the baobab tree. And that's how they climb it. These baobab trees
Wow.
are humongous,
Yeah, it's
and
like
they
huge.
climb
It's
and
like
climb
a
and
climbing
climb.
wall.
And he gets up. So this is a bee's nest down here on the ground, and then this is a bee's nest up here. And when he gets in there, the one that was on the ground, it was a brand new honeycomb that was just
Mm.
started. There was nothing in it. It was empty. And then the one up in the baobab tree was it was all old and dried up. And I said, well, what's going on? They said, it's not the season. There's no flowers out. And they said, they're not pollinating. There's nothing to bring back. I'm like, oh my golly. I said, so you don't have honey throughout the year? Oh no, it's seasonal.
Mm.
And so everything, and so this is another thing, guys, to remember, guys. Honey, we've got a lot of people out there preaching, eat honey, eat honey, eat
Yeah,
honey. No, 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 no. They do not eat it every day. It is seasonal. It's a few months
seasonal.
out of the year. And the tribes will keep talking about that. It's seasonal. But they work so hard, Tam. And again, I was like, oh my gosh, it's just nothing but just so sad. And so then it started making sense to me. It's like another bummer of a day. What are we going to take back to the tribe? We have
Mm.
nothing to offer. Here are these men, and they go back and there's nothing to take back. And so this is how they get their water. They find some, it could be puddles, it could be anything, and they drink from that. And of course, I wanted so badly too. But but we would take this water back and we did boil it. And we did cook some things with it, and that's what we were using.
Yeah.
And so there was a season, oh fiddlesticks, for this berry.
Yeah.
Okay. And this berry is found throughout Tanzania, and it is prized by the tribes.
And what
They
berry? What is it called? Do
love
you
it.
remember?
They love it. And I'm thinking, oh, good. I can't wait to taste this. And again, people, it is not sweet at all. It was bitter. It was sour. And yet this is Mateo. He's a Maasai, and he's saying, oh, this is my favorite. It's
Yeah.
so, so good.
Look at him, he's really getting into that
And I'm
bush. You
like,
can see
and
he's like,
I'm gonna put this video out soon, and you can hear me going, kind of bitter. It's kind of like, ooh, a lot of us would think it's not my go-to,
yeah.
but if this is what you have, this is ancestral. It's not, it hasn't been made to be so filled with, it's been altered and processed by man to make it these huge fruits now, this is what they normally would have. And it's only available like 2 months out of the year. It
Mm.
is not available all year long. And
That's the
so
key
when
to
they find
health.
it, you can
That's
see
yeah.
when the Hadzabe over here, he's picking away. So they will eat fruit, and including Maasai. So, so here we are. You can see where we're hunting. You can see that the animals from another tribe are coming down. They're pastoralists. They've got their goats, they've got their sheep, their cows, the donkeys. They're all roaming, scaring away any animals that they're going to hunt. And you can just see it's got to be so disheartening. But on our way back to the tribe, we stop at this Iraq family these are the Hadzabe. You can see they've got their bone arrows. This is all that they hunt with. There's no guns. There's nothing. It's just bone arrows. And this is what they caught that they killed the bird with. So they stop here each time that they go hunting, and this wonderful tribe gives them fresh milk. Now,
Oh,
milk is normally not in their diet, not normally in their diet. And so this tribe the women aren't, but the men are. Now, if the women go and I'm because I didn't really broach this question, but when I go back, I will be going back because I love these people so much. I want to see, do the women, when they go out and they're getting fetching water and so forth, are they stopping by and getting milk? So is
mm.
this a new addition to their diet, or has it been in their diet for many years since this family's been there? But they're so gracious. And again, this is where God came in. We were supposed to go and stay with another Datoga tribe. But in talking with them, and this is their little girl, Happiness, and you'll see more pictures of
She's
her.
so
She's
gorgeous.
13 years old. She was working so hard, preparing meals, doing things that, I mean, you think of girls in our country,
Yeah.
they're on their cell phones, they're on social media. She's tending to everything. She was just so beautiful, so
Oh,
gracious. And so this is my first cup of raw milk from a tribe.
your
It
first
was
cup,
delicious.
yes.
It was
Yes.
delicious,
Oh,
delicious.
yum.
And I mean, I get raw milk here, but I have had it shipped from Ashley
Right.
Armstrong from
But
their
this
group.
is fresh
So
and
I mean, this is fresh, warm still. And
mm,
so that was just beautiful. So then on our way back, I'm talking to Mateo. I said, I can't take this. I said, my heart is breaking. We have no food. I said, the women have gone out gathering and they've got some tubers and things, but they have no food. And I said, let's take the boys out for lunch. And then I said, I want to buy them a goat or a sheep. Let's see what we can find.
mm,
So we did. We look at them. So in the back, I just couldn't believe I've got my 3 little
big
Hadzabe
smiles.
men with me. They're going to get some food, and I look at them, look at their teeth. Look how beautiful their teeth are.
Yeah, lovely big smiles. I
Beautiful.
can see the goat being skinned there. I'm really
Yes.
curious.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you
That
see
was
that?
another experience for
Yeah.
me. And so this is so we went to a Toga Iraq family, and they were willing to sell us. And so I was able to purchase this sheep because I wanted to have
Mm,
sheep. Sheep to me is more luxurious and elegant and tastes much more better than a goat. And so then we went back, and Mateo, being a Maasai, he wanted to teach the Hadzabe and myself how to properly slaughter an animal.
right.
And so it was my first time. And
Mm,
because it was Mateo, he's like my son. He was talking me through it. And I have the whole thing. I taped the whole thing.
yeah.
And I will be sharing this. I just hope I don't I don't think I'm gonna get taken down because it's an educational piece. But if you want to watch this, it will show you exactly how everything is done.
Hmm.
And Tam, I was good.
You're
I was
okay.
so,
Yeah.
because the way he talked to me and the way he went so slow, it I was okay. I really didn't know how I would handle it. And I was so, I can do this. I can do this. And, they immediately drain the blood from the neck, and he saves it into a dish. And of course, this is all on tape. They stir it. It's very important that you stir it, because if you don't, it will coagulate and just turn to
Hmm.
a big massive clump. And so you have to stir it for quite a while until it cools down, and then the blood won't coagulate and clot.
Right.
And then, of course, we can drink it and we can use it and add it to other things.
Do you
And it
feel
was,
more of a connection with the food once you see it
oh,
slaughtered? Like,
it,
how does it change
I,
the experience?
it's everything, and you look at everything differently. And I've always thanked every time. I've always prayed before I eat. I always pray, and I always thank God, and I thank the animals for giving their lives, and I thank the farmers, everyone who's given me the food. But now to actually go, and I was with this animal,
Yeah.
picked out this animal, and we
Yeah.
brought this animal back, and this animal gave their life for us. And
Took your prayer to another level, I can
it was
imagine.
a whole one
Yeah.
life giving for another, for many lives. And
Mm,
I think that's the whole point. Was I knew that this was going to feed an entire tribe of people that didn't have anything that day. And so it just made it so beautiful, and they were so happy. They were so happy and so thankful. And so here we are again, and Matteo showing them, how to properly cook the legs, don't put it right on the fire, that has a stand. It was just so beautiful how he's teaching them, and they were really appreciating how he's teaching them. And then, of course, the men and the women never eat together. In any of the tribes, they don't eat together.
interesting. In
And
any of the
so,
tribes, even
yeah,
in Pacific Islands, would you say?
in the Pacific Islands, and we didn't no, they did not.
Mm,
They did not.
okay.
Very separate lives, separate lives. Um, Even in where they live. Again, the men in one hut, the women in the other. It's very separate lives. And so over here we have the men, they're eating, and of course they've got ugali with it. And
Hmm.
so they're taking the soup and so forth that we had made, and they're scooping it, and they're getting the fat and the blood and so forth that we had mixed together, and they're eating that together. And then down here, the women are doing the same. They've got their pile of their food with their ugali, again, the flour, the maize that they make. So that's become a huge piece of their diet because, again, their land has been taken from them. They don't have the animals to kill anymore. And they had to have some extra nutrient. So
Mm.
I wonder, has this caused the need to drink more alcohol? Again, this is all speculation. I don't know, but it was not what I thought I would find. I thought it was going to be this, you know,
Happy, happy, living
oh,
from the earth, kind of, yeah.
and I was just saw, and the marijuana and so forth. It wasn't that. It was
Mm.
just, so that was kind of sad. Greatly sad. Now with the women, this is another thing that I had never heard of. And, here I'm thinking I'm this great researcher and I read it all. So we're out with them, and they're getting their tubers and so forth. And this is the chief's wife. This is his wife, and they're monogamous. And he just glowed. And I talked about this the other day. I'll show another video that I'll show. When I show their blood glucose level videos, it was on. I think it was one that was aired. And he was just beaming when he was introducing that this is his wife and his children. I go, look at your glowing, you know? So she was with us that day and she took us down. They were helping to show us how they're doing. You can see that they collect greens, but they don't eat these. They boil them. They do not eat them raw. They boil them. But she showed me how they cook this over a fire for about 5 minutes. And I sat there, I'll put this video on eventually as well. And we were chewing on it and you could just taste the minerals. Oh, Tam, you could just taste the minerals coming out in the water. This is where they get their hydration from these plants, these tubers. And then you spit it out. You don't swallow this. There are some that they do eat. They will eat. This is not one of them. And I didn't experience the ones that they do eat. But this was just one that they get the minerals out of. So I can see where they're getting great minerals from these tubers, but they're not eating the fiber. They're not eating this. So high fiber diets that people talk about, I didn't see a lot of fiber being eaten, but now the ugali is a whole new piece, a whole new piece. But look what else they do. The women are also hunters. They
Yes.
will find up to 15 mice a day and they'll cook.
Wow.
So they are hunters. They are not just gatherers. They also try to help find other little critters that they can find. And it's usually the little mice and moles that they can find. So she was so happy. They only found one that day, but they got it. So I think that the person who finds it, I think gets to probably, because there's not much there for anyone to consume, but that was their,
How would you describe their activity levels?
um, compared to the other tribes, they're pastoralists. They're active because they go out and they do this. They'll get firewood.
Mhm.
They'll get some water and things like that. I didn't find them as active as the
Mm.
pastoralists.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't
So
find
less
that.
walking and
Right. I mean, and they still have to do walking because they
yeah.
still walk like 10 miles to get to the village to get their goods. They go once a week there. They have to walk to get their water, and get firewood and so forth. But they aren't, I just didn't see, maybe it's because I didn't have a closest connection with them. And I wasn't with them as long. I was only with them for 3 days. I was with the Maasai for many, 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 many days. Um, but I just didn't see the activity. They do,
Mm.
of course, they do the beadwork as well. They'll sit and do beadwork as well. But I'm sure they're more far active than what we have in our country, because they have to go take care, they have to make everything, they have to get
Yeah.
everything. You just not, but they weren't as, to me, they weren't as active as the pastoralists.
And I bet the idea to them of having or having a workout like we do, I
Oh,
bet the idea of that, they're just like, what
and,
the hell
and of course,
is wrong with
they
you
were looking at my
people?
body. My hair and my color of my skin,
Yeah.
because they hadn't been around. They're just not around the civilized world. They're just really living in the bush. So when I enter the scene, of course, I'm a woman that goes against all of their beliefs. Women, you tend to your home, you tend to your
Mm.
children, you don't wear pants, you dress like a woman. Um, it was like, what is this? And of course, my hair, they're all touching my hair. What is this?
Mm.
Were you born like that? And my muscles, I have a lot of muscle. And the men even were just like, because they don't have muscles. They
Yeah.
don't, because they don't work out.
Yeah.
They're not lifting. They're,
Can I just ask, so did you ever feel so for example, you said that they were curious about you. Did you ever feel uncomfortable at any point? Did you ever feel unsafe with the people?
when I first would first meet each tribe, I would always say to Mateo and to my boys, I'd say, I just don't want them to think I'm taking advantage. I don't want them to think I'm
Mm,
using them or exploiting them. I want them to know how much I love them and I'm here to learn from them because I revere them,
mm,
So that's what would be the first thing we would talk about. And so then once I could see that they would, then they would start touching me. And then
yeah,
I would start realizing they're okay because they feel
yeah.
safe to touch me, and they're, touching, because I'm very vascular from lifting weights and
Yes, yeah.
the veins in my arms and the muscles and the women, they're all, even the men, how do you do that? How do you get those, And so I would show them what I do. And they found that, why do you feel the need?
Yeah, like why would
They
you
thought
do
it was
that?
peculiar, but that's
Yeah.
peculiar. We don't need to. We just walk a lot, just walk a lot, you know?
Mm,
And so again, they had the shack-like stores there. just like in the Pacific Islands. And what did they have? Big, huge tubs of palm oil and
Mm.
sunflower oil. Sunflower oil. Now, sunflower oil is like
Mm.
68%. That's even higher, than what we were getting in the soybean oil. So I was like, oh, this is one of the worst you can have. That was prevalent across Tanzania, was the sunflower oil. Very disheartening. And of course, cigarettes and so forth were sold here as well. Again, when I looked at in their stores, these are some of the stores that we went to. There's a small store coming out of Arusha, a bigger store in Arusha on our way to the tribes. And sunflower oil, of course, again, was everywhere, was the big oil. And even in their Pringles chips was sunflower oil,
Mm.
sunflower corn, and again, rapeseed. So it's whatever. I found it interesting that whatever the oil of choice is in that area is what is in their processed food.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very
And
interesting.
and who knew Pringles was so different across the world?
Yes,
That's
I
what
always
I'm
thought it'd be
that's
the
what I'm
same old,
baffled
same
by.
old. But the Pringles knows enough to say, well, this area likes palm oil, so we'll just make it with palm oil. This oil likes sunflower oil. It's bizarre that they
Didn't
know
know.
that they're
Yeah.
actually like polling. This is what the people want. So it's interesting. But again, in palm oil, when we were in the Pacific Islands, they actually produce palm oil there. I mean, they've got actually the palm trees. That's where it's made. So maybe is that why? Do they have a plant there? For Pringles, that's why they're using it there. But oddly, that they're using sunflower oil here, is different than our recipe. The
Mm.
ingredients is different than what we have. It's just, I was so intrigued. I always go to the Pringles.
Yeah, right. Pringles is the same. Yeah.
Now we go to the Toga tribe. So when we recap the Hadzabe, their diet is mostly, again, they will tell you, if you watch my videos, meat is priority to them. Meat is the key to health. They will talk about, their plants. There's certain plants that are medicinal for them. The baobab tree, that's important. But again, it's seasonal. They don't have it all year
Mm.
long. And the little orange berries I showed you, the women said that's their favorite. But when I asked the women what would be their most healing food, they said, we don't have one. We're just grateful for anything we can get.
Mm.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's ancestral. You don't pick and choose. What do you get today?
Yes.
What's in your region. So now we go to the Toga tribe. We go to two. So this tribe, these are the blacksmiths. So interestingly, these boys, there was two young men that were there in their 30s, and they learned to be blacksmiths from their grandfather. And we were looking around, and I'm thinking they're supposed to be pastoralists. Where are their animals? And they told us that they're not there with them anymore. And so they're mostly living on ugali. And I'll show you in a minute what else they were saying. But again, this is their bomas are different looking. They're not like a hut looking, they're more flat roofed.
Mm.
Okay. And they're made, again, these are made with mud and cow dung. And that's what and sticks, and that's what they're made from. Oh, hold on. And so that's how they live. And often the animals are also, some of the smaller animals will live right in their huts, in their homes with them. And they made bracelets. And so I bought, here's some of the things that, of course, my children I gave to, but these are the ones that, so they will go out and find old metals like locks and old things that they just find around in the villages. They're like 10, 12 miles away, and they'll bring them all back. So they're kind of cleaning up the environment, but they're
Yeah.
also recycling, and they melt it down. I'll show you. So here they took a nail. Here's the nail.
Yeah.
He melted it down, and then he made me this, which would be an arrow. Now, if you look
Wow.
at this arrow I have here, okay, I don't know if you can see it, Tam. This is one I
Yes.
brought back from the Sanjo tribe. This is
Ah.
the Sanjo tribe made this, but the Sanjo tribe, so they would go to either the Datoga, so the Datoga, but they actually had this made by a Maasai group, which is very rare. So I was like, oh, this is a rare thing to have. This metal piece was made by a Maasai tribe, but then they insert it into their, so this is what they would do with this one here, this piece right here. They would
Mm.
insert this end into the end of the arrow. And then when they shoot it, these barbs go in, so it can't easily be pulled out like this. You know what I mean? It would
Mm.
be easily pulled out of the animal. It would still cause a problem,
Right.
death. And so there's all different kinds of arrowheads, but they made it from nails, little nails that they find around the community, or locks. Like the brass bracelets are made from brass locks.
Mm.
padlocks and so forth that they make, they melt them down. And so they're
Wow.
recycling. It's just really beautiful. And so here you can, again, you could see that and look how his thumb has been injured. He told me how that happened. So this is the other brother. And so then they were telling us about what they eat. And he said mostly they don't really have any more animal products, not even dairy. They mostly live on,
Right.
ugali, and another ugali again is maize flour and water, and makande, which is made with kidney beans, boiled with kidney beans and corn. And
Mm.
these are become really big in their diets. Now, look at their teeth.
Yeah.
Their teeth, they have some buildup on their teeth. Okay, they're still beautiful teeth. This is his grandfather. He's 102 years old.
Okay, so that explains his
And
teeth.
but he's still
Yeah.
got all his teeth. Now, another thing, whenever we notice tribes are missing either lower tooth or maybe an upper tooth, that's not because of decay. They actually remove them as a ritual. At
Mm.
first they think it's beauty, a sign of beauty, but it's also a sign of how strong you are. So when you're young, without any painkiller, they will use a knife and pull those right out of your mouth. And you don't wince, you have to show how strong you are. And so these are parts of their ritual. Same
Wow.
thing when they do the burning on their faces, of which you'll see in some of the tribe pictures. You'll see that's all part of how much can you withstand
Mm.
pain. You've got to be a
There's
warrior.
no animal protein here.
Yeah.
So
And so, but there's an interview I'm putting out of this 102-year-old grandfather, and he says it when it totally against what the boys were saying their diet is. He says he eats a lot of meat, and yet there was no animals there. So I
mm,
don't know if he's just thinking back when he was a younger man,
mhm.
that's what his diet was,
Okay.
and now he's also mostly eating the ugali or the makande. I don't know. I don't know. But I will say it could be also with his teeth here, because
Mhm.
his teeth look very healthy. They're
They do,
there. It's
and
just
they're
Spain.
white.
Yeah, I think it could be that with the Maasai, they are so conscious of their teeth and they're always cleaning. And I'll
Mm.
show you when we get to their point. And their teeth are just pristine. There's no buildup because of what I think it's their lifestyle. Everything that the Maasai do is like so pristine. That's why they're just so healthy in everything that they think, everything they do. And so these guys may not be using the tools that the Maasai use on a daily basis, and therefore they're
Mm.
just getting buildup. But he still has all his teeth. So does the 102-year-old man. So again, I don't know. But their teeth, I will say, the 100-year-old Maasai, their teeth did not look like this. Their teeth were beautiful.
Really?
And you can
Oh,
see how
okay.
worn down, the teeth are, very worn
Yes,
down.
yeah.
I don't know. It's different. So I don't know if it's more because of the grains are added to it. I just don't know. Again, it's speculation, but these are
Mhm.
things I want to work on. It's just so question mark.
Yeah, yeah.
Now now we're heading off to our next location, which is the next Datoga tribe. And here we are with the 100-year-old and his family and so forth. But there's a video I will be putting out with him talking about what he eats and what he thinks. He says meat, milk, and in a time that's when it was
When
powerful
it
for
was
him.
available,
Meat
yeah.
heals, meat heals. So now we're at our second Datoga tribe, and this is our campsite here. This is where we're staying here. And this is the tribe. They're at their spring. Now this is a seasonal spring. It will dry up in July and August, September, October. So they will have to walk miles and miles. This was only maybe half a mile away. It was just so convenient, but it will be drying up soon, and then they've got their work cut out for them. Okay, let's see here. So this is what their homes look like. Again, cow dung, sticks, mud. This is inside their home. It's all, this is what it is, and this is what they eat. You can see that they've got ugali.
Mm.
In their bowls, that's where their milk is. They've got their raw milk, but they love butter. They consume butter like there's no tomorrow. It's not
Wow.
like our butter. It's not like it's more of a drinking. They almost can drink it. So they can like consume like a liter of butter a day.
A liter.
Yeah. It's their milk, 4 or 5 liters of raw milk a day. And
A
ugali.
lot. Yeah.
Now, meat, they will have meat maybe once a week. So meat has no longer becoming their key to their diet. It used to
Mm.
be very much like the Maasai, very much like the Maasai. Blood used to be very important as well, but now the ugali has taken hold of this tribe. So Again, you can see that in my notes down below. This kind of talks about that. And of course, berries, they will find honey. It's all seasonal. It's all very
Seasonal.
seasonal. They will
Yeah.
make honey beer, but again, it's very rare. They do chew tobacco. This group does chew tobacco. They grow their own tobacco. They do not smoke, and alcohol is very rare, but they
Right.
will make their own out of honey. Um, but milk is a key to their diet, as is ugali. But milk is where they're getting most of their calories from.
Right.
Most of their
Right.
calories. Here we are. This is the men in the tribe. And of course, here they are. My hair was just like, what is this?
God.
What is this? My muscles, everything was just, and at first, this is Geesh over here. This is Geesh. He was kind of like the main speaker of the tribe.
Yeah.
And at first, he was very distant and he didn't want me using no pictures, no videos. And I thought, oh, golly, this is going to be, I will abide by what I prayed on it. I prayed on it. So when we were going to the spring, I, I am who I am. And of course, I see anything I can jump over. I was jumping over things. And of course, they never see women do that. Women walk, women don't run. I'm jumping and I'm leaping, and they're all like, what
Jumping,
is this?
lifting, like,
And they're like, what? And they're like, and then they're like, they never thought of, and here they're jumpers like the Maasai. They like to do the high jumping, but to jump over bushes. And so they started doing it, and so this loosened him right up. And and I took a picture of him, and he hadn't seen himself on a camera before.
wow.
And he's like,
Wow, that's
he
incredible.
couldn't
I didn't
believe
think
it.
about
And I
that.
said, so I took a video of all of them jumping over bushes, and they were just
Oh my
they couldn't
gosh.
believe it. They couldn't believe it.
How did they respond to your phone? Like, did
They
they
were
just
just
find
like,
it
well,
so bizarre?
they will actually have small little tiny phones, but they can't take pictures, but they can
Yeah.
call each other on. But they couldn't believe what my phone could do.
Yeah.
So
The
the
videos.
boys would come over and they would kind of take my phone out of my hand, and they would
Yeah.
kind of like try to figure out what to do with it. And then they started trying to take pictures of themselves. And of course, Mateo's, Suze, what if they delete everything? What if they delete all of it? I'm like, I just can't take it away from them. I can't. It was just so then when they saw they, of course, and the women were just like, what is this creature? You know what I mean? She's like a
Yes.
little weird, she's like a little cartoon character. And so so then we go down. Oh, all right. So then again, so I think I must have, did I lose some pictures here? I thought I had more pictures. Yeah, I must have. I hope I didn't lose some this morning when I was going through it. So yeah, so again, we did meet some of the elders, and they had eye issues, Tam.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, is this glaucoma? Is this what's going on? Are they lacking vitamin A? It can't be, because they're drinking, they're having animal products, and they're getting all that they need. They're getting K2. And they were really talking about that they don't believe in eating beans. They feel that beans of any kind, and here the other Datoga tribe that I went to was consuming a ton of beans in the
Mm.
Makande. But this tribe believes that it causes death and eye issues. So they
Wow.
won't go near a bean. And I started noticing that there's eye issues, and some of them look like they've got something going on with their eyes. I thought, I wonder if there's a genetic default, or is there something going on? So I want to study this tribe more
Okay.
and find out what's going on. So I've got so much on my plate for research, because
Yeah.
it's
So
just
you
something.
don't have a theory yet, but you're going to find out.
And I don't know. And I talked to them about, when was ugali added to their diet, and they said 24 years ago. They knew exactly when. 24 years ago. They could right to the day. And one of the elders, he was in his 80s, and I have him on video. As a matter of fact, he was on an Instagram live that I did, and he was adamant that since they've added ugali, their health is going downhill. And I'm wondering if at a time, did they eat beans? And is that they started noticing eye issues, and that's why they removed them,
They
because
stopped.
it's
Yeah.
so they won't go near them.
Mm.
And so I just thought that was interesting, because I thought beans, I've never heard of that as something that would, so I don't know. Again, something I'm going to research.
Yeah, that's
And
really fascinating.
but he was begging the teenagers, the young children that were there during that recording, please stop eating ugali. Go back to the meat, blood, and milk.
Mm.
Go back to that. And he was a handsome, wonderful looking man. I mean, he smiled, his teeth are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And again, they consume a great deal of milk and butter. Milk and butter is their go-to, their calories. Yeah. Now we go to the Iraq tribe. This is the family that we had met we were hunting with the Hadzabe. And so we're going to go back to this tribe. And so this is our campsite here. and this is their home, and you can see all their animals around. They've got animals in their home, you know, but it was so clean. Oh my gosh. I mean, and you're probably thinking, how can a dirt floor, and it was just pristine. The
I'm just thinking
flies,
about their microbiome right now. It must be
I,
so diverse,
I'm
like
telling you,
in
the
nature urban.
Dakota tribe that we were just with, the flies were horrendous. Literally, you couldn't speak. The flies were just like trying to get in your mouth. It was, like, it was just so, you know. And of course, I did have an incident that happened at that tribe, and I'll tell you at the very end what happened. It wasn't good because it was only 6 or 7 days into our into the expedition, and something really bad happened to me. But I got
Let's
through
not
it.
forget, we need to cover that.
With
Yeah.
God's help, I got through it. So again, this is their home, and it was pristine. There was hardly no flies. It was just, I mean, normally you see, you know, cow dung and donkey dung and animal. It was just so, I was saying, look how clean. I said, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. I couldn't understand what they were doing differently. And I asked, but this is the family, and this is, I called him Mar, and he was the father, and he has one wife, and he has 8 children, and just so gracious. He just gave so much time to us and to me, and just serving us. And of course, Happiness is his daughter, and she his oldest daughter, and she was just beautiful and just so helpful. And this is another daughter that was always working, always tending to chores. And they had some sons that were out, you know, tending to their cattle and their livestock. But again, they have been very much infiltrated by the government. They're afraid because the government has told them they can't have raw milk because it's going to kill them. And so they
Mm,
boil their milk.
okay.
And I just kind of talked to them about that, but I didn't want to, you know, try to twist their arm about anything. But they said, and then the government's trying to get them to grow their corn, which has been, you know, genetically modified, instead of doing their heirloom. And they're pastoralists, agro-pastoralists. They do a lot of growing of their own food as well. And so I just kind of reminded them, stick with yours. Don't go to something that's going to be, you know, modified, have possible glyphosate that's been impregnated into them. I said, just please grow what you're growing. But they do eat the kidney beans. Notice the kidney beans in this
Mhm.
makande with the corn. So, but I didn't notice any health issues with them. I did. There's, again, just like there's been no obesity in any of these tribes, no overweight in any of the tribes. They were within the normal weight range. Children, I didn't notice any ADHD, no autism. They were very, you know, very active,
How was
engaged.
everybody cognitively? Did, like from the elders to the children, like was everyone
I'm
switched
very
on or?
sharp, and that's why I wanted to meet with the elders. I really wanted to see, you know, they don't, no glasses, no one's wearing glasses. I asked the
Wow,
elders,
that's
could they
interesting.
see?
Yeah.
And they said, yeah. One of the elders did say he has a little difficulty seeing distant wise, but it wasn't anything bad. They're walking. I mean, we're talking 100-year-olds walking 10, 12, 15 miles a day.
Mm.
You know, they have to squat. I did ask this question, and people are like, I can't, my daughters, I can't believe you're asking this question. I would ask them, you know, I know that you go out into the bush. Can you still do a full flat foot squat to go to the bathroom? And yeah, what else would we do?
It was
You
like, what a
know,
silly question.
but think
But
about
for
how
us,
many
it's
people,
like
I
we
mean, when
most
I was
people can't.
teaching, they can't. I mean, I had little children that couldn't do a flat foot squat because their Achilles tendon was already shortening and getting short, and it was causing them pain because it's not something we're supposed to be doing this from birth. My granddaughter, I remember when she was 1 year old, it was intuitive. She's an animal. She intuitively dropped into a flat foot squat to look out the window to watch the deer in my backyard, and I have a picture of that. And I thought, I haven't taught her that. She intuitively knew this is how humans are to sit
Yeah.
at 1 year
Same
old.
as
She
my
knew that.
kids. Yeah.
And isn't it amazing to watch this? But now our children just sit in chairs. Chairs are really a fairly new
Yeah.
adaptation that we have in our world. It's really only like 150, 200 years old, if that. And we normally would be squatting, you know, or sitting on the ground. We don't get onto the ground anymore. And I've made
Mm.
videos years and years ago about drop a squat or get on the ground. But again, beautiful family, beautiful. This is their inside of their home. They cook on an open fire. Everything's in just beautiful. This is their home. If you look out, oh, fiddlesticks. This is where the cattle are kept at nighttime. They have just trees that they've kind of cut down and made into a fenced in area. This is where the cattle stay. This is Mar bringing the cattle in, and they're all zebu cows. They're miraculous cows. I researched them. They're to be more of a disease resistant, parasite resistant. Their milk is very nutrient dense, very fat. Wonderful. It's so creamy taste, just so amazing tasting. They're zebu cows. But this is where how they store their animals within their homes. This is not in a Boma region. They live a little differently than the other tribes do. They've got neighbors that are like further away, so they're not all their huts aren't all together. So the Datoga, same thing. They're not all really close together like the Maasai and the Hadzabe. They're just kind of spread out, but they're very close with their neighbors and friends and family members. Again, this is his children. I just wanted to say, because what I see in our world now, I don't see a lot of children tending to chores anymore. You know,
No,
it's just everyone's kind
no.
of sitting around on their phones and doing social media. But these children are
Yes.
gathering, cutting, collecting wood, serving people that are there. This is how they kept it so clean. They take bushes, they go and cut them off, and they make the little brooms and they sweep the dirt to get all the dung and all the it's so clean in their home. It's the same way. It was so spotless. I was just so, and this is again happiness doing this. It was
Like, can
just
I just ask, how did the kids stay busy? So they were doing chores, but then did they play? Like, what was their
yeah,
day?
they're basically doing chores all the time. And
Mm,
if you're out tending to the if you're the boys are out tending to the flocks, the girls will be out and working in the with their crops, because these
mm.
guys grow as well. They grow. They're not just pastoralists, they're agro as well. And also cleaning, cooking, gathering wood, going and getting water. Some of them go to school. If they go to school, they're walking like 10 miles one way. There's nothing close by. Everything's always like 10 miles, 12 miles, 8 miles. I'm like, golly, this is what a hard life. What a hard life. You know, if they want to go into the village, they have to walk 10 miles to get anywhere if they need something. And so these guys, you can see they use plastic. They do use certain things. They have plastic chairs. And they do go, Mar did tell me that they do go to the doctors. They don't really rely a lot on medicinal things anymore like they used to. But
Okay.
the elders did say that they want to go back to the old ways.
Mm.
But these guys have been eating ugali for quite a while. They said this is not a new thing for them. So the ugali and the makanda, that's not new. That's so again, here we are with there's his family and
Oh, the
their
baby.
babies and things. It was just so I just loved again I loved every tribe. I just loved them all. They were
I
just
can
so
tell,
beautiful.
like the way
And I
you
didn't
talk
want to
about
leave
going
them. It was
back
like I was trying to
and
leave. I'm like, oh, you know, I gotta
yeah,
come back. I gotta come back. And it was just I just loved them so. They were so willing to talk to me, so willing to share. It was just amazing. So now we're heading to our first Maasai tribe. And am I rambling too much? Tim, I just didn't really
no,
think,
it's
gosh, Sue, this is so long. So now we're going.
it's okay, it's okay. I mean, I have to head off at some point soon, but
Okay, just
I'm
let me know.
enjoying it though.
I'm
You're not
sorry. I'm
rambling, I'm
sorry.
just enjoying it.
Um, so we're stopping here, and this is we're heading from Arusha, and we're in the Arusha Regional District, and we're at Lake Natron, which is known to be one of the most caustic bodies of water. I mean, its pH level is 10.5. You go in it, you're going to burn. You're going to have. I mean, it will.
Wow.
It's just very, very dangerous to go in. But there's an actual breed of flamingo called a lesser flamingo that has been able to evolve to be able to survive. 75% of all the world's population is born here. This is where they migrate to. Isn't
Wow.
it remarkable?
I
And
didn't
so
even know that existed, this body of water.
I was just like, oh my gosh, I'd heard about it, but I thought, oh, and there it was. I was, oh, it's just amazing, just absolutely amazing. Yeah. So here we are, and this is at Mateo's Boma. This is his family's
Mhm.
Boma. So it was just we spent most of our time with this, a lot of our time with this family. This is where we had the encounter with the hyenas.
The hyenas, right.
Yes. And so we had 3 tents up, and normally we only would do two, but we knew that we were going to be doing a lot of slaughtering while we were there. And this is where we were going to house a lot of our meats and things. And so this is my tent. And because in this region, it's further away, it gets colder at nighttime, but it also does more raining because this is more of a rainy season. And so because my tent wasn't really truly a waterproof per se, that Menendo would always put a tarp over mine at nighttime just to make sure that it didn't leak. So again, he was always watching out for me.
Looking after you.
And yeah, it was just amazing. So again, here's the tribe coming over. They came to help us, and it was just these are all his family members, his relatives that were there. here we are. So as soon as I got there, they wanted to dress me so I could become, because I said, I want to be a Maasai, you know, I'm the white Maasai, the New York Maasai, you
Have you
know.
still got this outfit? Did you bring
Oh,
it
I
home with
still have all
you?
my clothes here.
Gorgeous.
I just love them. And so they gave me so much. So they put this on me. They made this jewelry for me. They made this because they thought my cell phone would fit in that, but my cell phone was bigger. So because I always, have like a Kleenex and things and all these little things, my hair bands and things to braid my hair, I would put all those in there. So I always had that on. They made me this beautiful belt. This is his mom. This is Mateo's mom. And so she made me all this beautiful jewelry.
Gorgeous. God, she must have
It
done that quickly.
Oh, well, they knew, 'cause, we've been planning this for so long. So when he
Right.
told her, so like weeks ago before I got there, they were already working on making all these things for me. It was just so, I never felt so loved and appreciated and respected by people. It was just, I just love them so much. I just love them. So this is my first slaughter camp. So we go out
Oh,
and there's meat and body parts hanging
no.
everywhere.
Gosh,
Here's
it's like
this,
a
the
horror
head,
movie,
the,
but that's
the
like
head,
life
the head of
though.
a sheep is right here. I was like, oh, okay. But what they do is they hang it so that they can get all the blood out, so that blood is not going to be into
Is that
the
fat I see hanging from the
yes,
first
this is
tree?
the fat from the kidneys and so forth, the suet and the legs are over here, head is here. So it was just so fascinating to see how they have the slaughter camp. Here they're skewering a leg from the lamb that they're going to put nicely, not too close to the full fire because they want to slowly cook it. Here they're cutting up some of the chest region. And the great thing is everything is sectioned off so that every piece goes to a specific group of people.
Well, how
So the
so? So
children,
like, how do they
the
know?
children, and I've got a video that I'll be posting on this. The children get like the chest portion. The women will get, and I'm probably gonna get this wrong. The women will get certain areas, but they'll also get from the cow and the sheep, I think they get the liver. The men will get the liver from the goat.
Mm. Is there
And
any reasoning behind that?
they did this is and I said that I said, is there a reason? They didn't really say there was, and I said, and I told them, I said, I'm wondering if it's because when they have their periods, that
It's
menstruating,
iron
they
rich.
need the iron.
Yes.
And it's again wisdom, just the wisdom. But
Yeah.
they said that even when they go, and this is never talked about, when they go to their big slaughter camp where they may be gone for 3-4 weeks at a time, when they're warriors during the warrior time, no matter how many miles away they are, if they will not consume the part that they don't that isn't meant for them, they will bring it all every day. They will bring that back to the tribe so that they've got their parts. So the older people get their parts, the young children get their parts, the women get their part, and the men get theirs, because everyone must get their parts. It's always fair. And
Fascinating.
it was the most beautiful thing. That's the Maasai way. Everything is so thought out, so beautifully thought out. Oh, meticulous, meticulous. It was just miraculous. Oh, and so this is a key piece that is never talked about, very rarely talked about. There is some research out there, which I'm going to delve even further into, that they call it bark. It is
Mm.
not just the bark, it's actual tree stems that they're taking and cutting up. And then they have this mallet that they pound on it and it squishes it out. So it releases the fibers and so forth. And then they boil that in its own water. They will not consume the tree and the tree bark, but all the nutrients seeps into the water. And then they mix that water into the soup that they make. And they stir it and they stir it and stir it for half an hour. And when they're stirring it, they believe, and I believe with all my heart and soul, because the research I'm finding is showing this, that it allows the fat to dissipate and allows your body to absorb it better. And everyone wonders why they can handle so much fat in their diet and so much the high saturated fat.
Mhm.
There's possibility in the research I'm doing right now that this also helps their body to control the level of saturated fat and cholesterol. It's miraculous what my early findings are finding, Tam. I'm telling you, it's really miraculous. So therefore, when we give our advice to people to eat like the tribes, are we being safe? I want to make sure that when I give advice to anyone, I can't just say, so eat like these tribes, because what if the herbs and these soups and the chai teas that they're drinking have some medicinal ability to allow their bodies to assimilate such
Right.
high amounts that we don't have. Another key thing I've been also researching is there's actually been a study with the Maasai that they may have a genetic gene that also allows them to be able to, that they've over generations and generations have been able to adapt to taking in so much saturated fat cholesterol. I don't know, but these are my preliminary findings thus far, and it's pretty powerful.
And do you know what
Pretty
else
powerful.
is really powerful? Like the fact that you could be the first one to actually delve into this stuff. Because who
It's
else
it's
is really
it's
talking about this?
it's
Like
huge. It's
nobody.
huge. And then another piece that I've also found,
Hmm.
and this is from the elders themselves, but also there are some studies done on this that I want to delve in further. It's just so exciting, Pam, I tell you. They walk, and the elders, these are from 100-year-old men. And I said to them, I'm thinking you guys are so active. You're not sedentary. And we're always preaching to everyone. We've got this new group now, always saying, everyone, don't be afraid of saturated fat. Don't be afraid of eating all this fat. Don't be afraid of eating all this. But we're pretty sedentary.
Mhm.
Most of us are not walking 10, 15 miles a day. We've got some of the health gurus that are working out in gyms every day. Okay, that's huge. That's a big piece. But is everyone who's taking on these diets now saying, "Oh, I'm jumping on the bandwagon"? Are they? And so
Mm.
that's now the things I've been posting is, but the key piece is these people are very active.
Yes.
Make sure if you are going to switch to something like this, we have to maintain an active lifestyle.
Like don't do one half of the job. Like you've got to do the
Yeah.
full job.
You've got to, we're going to have to live like them. That doesn't mean you're going to go out and, go find a spring 10, that kind of thing, but you need to walk. You need to walk every day. The women, there's so much, I just tell you, there's just so much. Again, this is their chai tea. Their chai tea in the morning, every morning, they will have about a liter of raw
Gorgeous.
milk.
Oh,
There's
I could
milk,
have that
fresh
now.
milk that's been cooked. Oh, this has been boiled, though. It won't be raw. It's been boiled with, so I equated it to, it looked like it was a 3-to-1 ratio of water. So a 3-to-1 ratio of raw milk that's boiled with water. And then they take more bark or tree stems that have been squished and down and ground down, and they boil it all together, but they don't consume that. They put it through a sieve type thing that kind of gets all the debris out. And then they have a liter of this every morning on top of,
A liter
on top,
each.
yes. This is a half a liter. I was only doing a half liter
Wow.
because I was struggling because I've never had that much dairy in my life. And then plus at nighttime, I would have another one. They will have that plus another 2 to 3 liters of raw milk. That's their breakfast.
Wow.
Then they go out and they go out and tend to, the men will tend to their flocks, and the women are extremely busy, extremely busy. And I became so close with them. I was with them a lot. And so I got to really see what their life is like. And again, meat is consumed not every day. People who say that they live on meat, no, they will tell you milk is their key to their diet. Meat is 2 to 3 times a week because they're not going to slaughter their animals every day. Also, they have no animals left, they said. And it makes sense. And
Mm.
of course, all the people in the bomas, all the people around will share. So if Mateo's group does one that week, then another neighbor down the road may do one, and they share. They'll kind of share their
So
what they
what do,
have.
so with high protein diets these days, what do you think about people having meat, or recommending it, breakfast, lunch, dinner, eat
And
animal protein every day? Like,
and living there, I'm telling you, with all the tribes, none of them, are eating it every meal.
right?
And
Are they having it are
the
some of
only
them
time
having it
they
every
would,
day?
no, they're not every day.
Mm.
And the only time they would be eating every day is when they go to the slaughter camp during
Mm.
that 15-year period between 15 years old and 30. And that's not every day. But the Maasai warrior in his Maran time, they call that's their period of 15 years. They will try to eat meat every day because they
Mm.
feel that's what makes them strong and brave. They will, but they're also consuming dairy. And if they find berries, they will eat the berries. And they, of
Right.
course, the soup with the bark that they're soup. So during that 15-year period, they're trying they will have probably meat every
Okay.
day.
Right.
But when you're not in that stage, you're eating mostly consuming milk and the meat again 2 3 times a week with that soup and so forth. They are introducing ugali,
Right.
and because in the dry season now, because their land has been taken, so much of their land. Again, the government is just destroying. And this is one of my projects I would love to do, is to try to raise money to be able to put in a spigot, one main spigot into each area, so that they don't have to walk so many miles during the dry season and their animals are dying because there's
Oh,
no water. I would love to be able to drill a spigot so that each of these tribes will be able to have water and just live a little easier life, not so afraid to lose their animals, because the animals are dying because they have no land to keep moving them to. You know, when it's dry, there's no more pastures. There's just no place to go because it's been taken up by tourism and agriculture and so forth. But that there was so much, just so much TAM. Here's the women. This is what their day is like. So they go out and they chop wood. And they're walking a
look at
couple
her
miles to get
go.
to where the wood is.
Mm.
They lift. Now, I couldn't do a full lift on it because of something that happened to me, which I'll tell you at the end.
Okay. This is
So
the
I'm
thing,
not
right? I
sure,
can't
but
wait
I'm
for that.
telling you right
Yeah.
now, I'm saying it was probably at least 150 pounds that they're carrying on their head. And it's like a strap. And I did that. I think I was only probably carrying only 100 pounds on mine. So theirs were probably about 150. They're so strong, these girls. And we had to walk like another 2 miles back home with this on our necks and so forth. They're also washing and tending to their chores. They have to walk another, 10 miles to get their water every day. So again, they're chopping and carrying at least 150 pounds on their heads like this, on their necks like
You know,
this.
we talk about
Like,
strong women and we talk about
oh,
like girl power and
yeah.
all that. Like this
But
is
but
it.
but they don't. Again, they're wondering, why do I have muscles? But they're stronger than I am. I can deadlift 150. Okay, I can do 150 pounds. But what they were lifting onto their heads, of course, I couldn't at the time, so I wasn't really sure if I could because of what was wrong with me. But um, they were remarkable. I said, you girls are like Wonder Woman,
Mm.
the strength that they have. And of course, their legs and everything. So they don't have, so all of us who are thinking we have to look like we're bodybuilders, they don't, but they put me to shame, put me to shame. And then of course they're always milking all their animals. They've got their herds are enormous. They've got goats, sheep, and cows that they've got a morning and night they're milking. Then of course they make all their beautiful jewelry, and they
Yeah,
were
I can
showing
see
how
your
to make
gorgeous
it.
earrings.
Just so amazing.
Beautiful.
So amazing. Then they're teaching me how to milk, and I thought that the smaller animals were easier to
That's a
to
good
milk.
squat, Suzanne.
I was just like, oh my God, this is so fun. And this is the men, how they're out tending to their animals. And they walk all day long. They don't sit. They're just walking and walking and walking all day. Again, they're not going to be big bodybuilders and so forth, but they could put most of our people to shame, because the stamina these men have, and they always carry a machete and a
Mm.
spear. I have a spear that they gave me that I brought back, and I brought some of their walking sticks that they have. And that's in case a wild animal. And we were filming with the second, right in the middle of doing a live on the second Maasai we were with, and a young boy came back, and we had to end it quickly because a leopard had just killed one of their animals. And
Oh,
you could see he was a little shaken, but he's getting ready to enter his warrior stage, and he couldn't show that. And so they immediately wanted to go back and retrieve, because he was able to get the leopard to go away, but he'd already killed the pregnant sheep. And so they had to go get that. So we just kind of ended it. But you just never know. So they've always got a spear with them and their machete. They don't do the bow and arrow. They would rather just use to kill the
do
animal
the
with a spear.
animals ever attack the humans?
I've asked them that. I said, have you ever had that happen? And they said, in their tribes I spoke with, they said no, because
Wow.
they're trained from like birth. The children, there was a little boy about 4 or 5 years old, Tam, and you have little children.
Yeah.
And we were out, and I was out with the women, but Mateo was with me always. And we were out getting things and for wood. And I looked over, and this little boy's walking by himself. And he's got his little spear with him, his walking stick. And I said, well, what's he doing? And he says, he's going out to tend to the flock. I said, well, where's the adult? They go by themselves. They take care of the chop. I went, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, we do this from like 3, 4 years old.
Wow.
And he said, and they no matter how big their flock is, Tam, they can tell you by glancing if an animal is missing. They know. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I was buying animals for each of the tribes to give them as gifts because of what they did for me. And I would just give them, and within seconds, that animal would be out going among some, and they would know exactly where it was. I couldn't remember what that goat or sheep or cow looked like, and they would know exactly which one it was. Their memories are
Yes.
absolutely unbelievable, unbelievable.
Incredible.
And again, the children were
Incredible.
just miraculous. These were the elders. These men, this is Mateo's dad. He's 75 or 72. He's in his 70s. And these men, they weren't sure, they're in their 90s, close to 100.
God, they look well.
And their teeth were gorgeous. And they were
Wow.
just sharp as a tack, walking and still tending to they don't stop. They don't stop. And they were just as sharp as could be, sharp as could be. And these were some of the girls at nighttime in the evening. They would bring me my raw milk to have
Oh,
before
so
bed.
sweet.
I was just like, you guys are so good to me.
I
It
bet
was
you miss
so
that.
beautiful. It was
When
just,
you're
I just
home, you're like, can't anyone bring
just
me my
love
milk?
them so much, just love them. And these are the animals I gave to Mateo and his family before I left. So we went shopping, and it was on live Instagram. So everyone was kind of helping me. So I bought a pregnant, let's see, I gave them a pregnant cow, a pregnant sheep, a pregnant goat, and then a regular non-pregnant goat.
Oh,
So, and then by the time all the births, they'll have 7 animals and all that I was able to give to them. So I just felt it was just the best gift the best gift you can give any Maasai would be an animal, a livestock. That's their greatest treasures, because that's their food. That's their food. And then, Pam, again, this is God. Um, I was invited to attend the inauguration of the new chief of all the Maasai. Now there's chiefs, but this is the big honcho of all the tribes in Tanzania and Kenya. And people from all over those 2 countries, they came. It was just the most amazing thing. And he was just so gracious to me. I was able to be right down in front taking pictures. I mean, there was so many people there, so many people taking, media was there. Just this was huge, but I was right down in front. It was like, here's this white girl, and everyone was just like escorting me it's like they were just so loving and accepting of me, people I didn't know. And then, and of course, these are the girls a lot of these are Mateo's family members that were there. And so we did a lot of hanging out together too. And then they were allowing me. A woman is not supposed to be in the slaughter camp, because this is where all the warriors are, and warriors are not supposed to be around the women. The women are not supposed to be where they're eating. You're not supposed to see them eating. They allowed me down there. You can see where all the animals are hanging from the trees and so forth. This is where they did the slaughtering on the stone. A man, they brought me a fresh liter of raw milk into the calabash. This is a calabash. This is mine that I brought home, that Mateo's family gave me. It's made from a gourd. It's a squash. It's made from a gourd and hollowed out. And the Sanjo tribe, which we'll be going to after these tribes, they grow these. And so they provide these for the tribes that are, pastoralists that use it for milking. And they milk their cows. And it goes right into there. And of course, the smell of it. It just, the smell makes me want to cry, because it reminds me of the smell of the tribes. It's just so beautiful. And so brought me, they were just, Mateo was like, what is this? They were bringing on, he was like, what about us, And so, so I drank that down. And then of course they were bringing me meat. Here's your meat. It was just so beautiful, so beautiful. And then the chief, his name is Chief Old Tendel, and he came to see me before I left. And because he knew my research and he had heard, he knows, and I had given him a copy of our book. And so he wants me to work with him to be able to help to make life better, because their land is being taken. All the tribe's land is being taken. And I'm so afraid that eventually are they going to all fall to processed food, because ugali is now entering, they're running out. And so I want to work with him in helping the tribes and hoping to bring water to their villages, maybe even solar panels. When we get the Sandro tribe, actually, one of them had a solar panel on top of their hut, and they had a little light bulb hanging in their hut. It was just, I thought, can you imagine if I could give everyone a solar panel to have a light bulb? A simple light bulb, because I mean, it's so dark there. It's just so dark. You can't see anything. This was a 102-year-old Maasai. It's Tembo, my driver. This is his grandfather. He was unbelievable. There's a beautiful video of him talking, and he said, milk, meat, and blood are the key to health, and walking. He said, walk at least 10 miles a day.
Would you come away and say that's one of your big takeaways, like one of your health takeaways? Like if you were to say what are the biggest takeaways, what would they
I
be?
would, I would think, yeah. I mean, for everything that I saw, for my health, I still, for me, I have to go by listening to my body because I was there and I was trying to eat a lot of what they're eating. I I don't know unless we said if I were to stay there and my body could adapt to that much dairy. But for me, it was causing, I was starting to get diarrhea.
Okay.
And if I had too much, it was just too much for my body. But could I adapt? I don't know.
Mm.
Um, I still, for my optimum health, I still feel my best having a little bit of fruit.
Right.
Um, so I did incorporate that each day. I did have some fruit that we like bananas. I do like bananas because I get my magnesium and my potassium. But that's what for me. But the most healthiest people that was with was the Maasai.
Right.
And even when we go to the next Maasai tribe, this is the next one, there was a wedding, the most beautiful wedding. It was just unbelievable. All the Morons were there doing their chanting, and the videos I'm going to put out are those are just unbelievable.
I mean, they're
Um,
gorgeous. Their
they were
faces, they're so
pristine.
handsome, the
This
boys.
man's this man's around 100 years old. Look
Look
at
at
his teeth.
his teeth
Look at now compare his teeth to
to the
what we
other
saw
one.
in
Yeah.
Dakota, who is now he said he was a meat eater, but it looks like they're eating mostly grains. I don't know. I have to go by what the boys were
Interesting.
saying. Isn't it? Look how gorgeous he is. Look at his
Gorgeous. It's stunning. Look at his bone
stunning.
structure.
And of course,
He's
and you
like
see him walk
100.
away, and he'd walk 10 miles to come to see us, and he was walking 10 miles to go back, and it was scorching. Oh my gosh, it was so hot, so hot. Again, and again, my hair was big there. This is at the wedding. It was big. This is Naisha. She was the mother to the groom. She brought me this dress. She gave me this dress to wear, and just so beautiful. And every day she was bringing me fresh raw milk. This is a
Oh,
half of a liter, and she taught me how to milk a cow. Here I am over here milking a cow with her. It was just, and I bought for the bride and groom. I bought them a red pregnant cow and a pregnant sheep for their gift
gorgeous.
for their wedding. And again, they're so appreciative. It just so appreciative. And this is our I'm going really fast. Our Batemi or Sanjo group that we went to, our final group. This was our where we were going to stay there. And this is the elders there. But I found that they were aging rapidly because they used to be very much like the Maasai. But this specific Sanjo tribe is living mostly on ugali and very small amount of dairy. Even though they've got cattle, they're mostly just living off of ugali, some fruit, vegetables that they grow. Meat is consumed maybe once a month. But the elders said that they do wish that they could go back to how they used to live because they were much healthier. This man was struggling. He had such pain. He could hardly walk. He could hardly walk. His knee was all inflamed, swollen. It looked like he had fluid build up. And he said it had been that way for over a year. He was not healing. He was really struggling. Um, and I just felt really bad. I felt really bad. One of the girls that we spent a lot of time with, Miriam, she is struggling getting pregnant. So she's got some infertility issues
Um,
going on. And again, didn't see any of that with those tribes that are consuming high dairy, high meat. So just some things to think about.
I think there's some clear, like, linear kind of thoughts about this. Like animal protein is really key. And
It is. It's
it seems
vital.
like they share a similar lifestyle in that they hunt, they walk, but then the food is different. Some have
That's
ugali,
key.
some don't. Some eat meat,
Yes.
some don't. And it's like that
And
seems to be affecting their health.
even though Ugali's approaching and entering the Maasai, they are so adamant and so watching, and the elders are just saying, "We've got please don't eat too much of this. Stick to our traditional diet." But again, because their land has been taken in the dry season, when they normally add blood to the milk, they don't do that anymore because it's their animals are dying, and so
Mm.
now they're consuming ugali in its place. So the blood, even though they have their slaughter camps, they still have it. They aren't doing where they puncture the carotid, and if you've seen videos, and they will add that, and they'll make like a milkshake of the milk and the blood. They aren't really doing a lot of that anymore. Now it's the ugali that
Mm.
they're so. But the wisdom of the elders are saying we've got to find a way, and that's why I said to the chief, I said, we've got to find a way that to either somehow can we get some of their land back where they can have the way it used to be. make people more aware that we can just kind of have some kind of a or something where we can just say to the government, this, you can't just keep stripping them of their land because they keep wanting to move them and take away and take away. It's getting smaller and smaller. And they're going to end up falling prey to, you know, our dictatorial system of let's eat some processed food. You're fine. You'll be fine with this. And this
Yeah.
is what they're falling to. But they're so adamant, the Maasai especially, they don't want to change. They want to stick with what they're doing. Oh, and I was going to say about their teeth. So they use, this is a stick that they made. This is what I was brushing my teeth with when I was there. I still use it. I brought a whole bunch of these sticks back, and it's really extraordinary. I thought I had a piece. Oh, here we go. This is what happened to me. Damn. It's like my daughter's like, Mom, you're an accident waiting to happen. So I burned incredibly. Everyone who talks about our skin is so great in the sun. I have never burned, except when I was a teenager. I would put back in the 60s and 70s, we would put on mineral oil, baby oil on our skin, thinking if we burned, it would turn to a great tan.
Yeah.
That's what would burn. But since then, I haven't burned. Even in all the islands I've been on, I never burned until I got to the Africa sun.
Okay.
And anyone who has never been to Africa, please don't make that statement to people, because this is, I can tell you, even the tribes could not believe, they weren't used to being around a white girl like me. And they were just like, I mean, every day it just kept getting worse and worse, and the peeling, and it was just horrible what was happening. But then in the middle of the night, and this thing called the Nairobi fly got into my tent, and it must have been sitting on my face. I didn't know it. And this doesn't bite, but it leaves a very toxic acid. If you try to move it, it will spray out of it, and it burned my upper lip. And
It's
so this
painful.
is quite a few days after, so it was starting to heal. So you didn't really see. And then of course I was attacked by massive mosquitoes and bugs. It was just one thing after another. And then on the 6th or 7th day of I was climbing trees with the kids because I
No.
love to climb trees. So I get up onto this tree. I didn't assess the tree and didn't look at the bark of it because it's different than the kind of trees that we have here in New York State. I usually climb maple trees because they're very big, very small branches that I can just climb to all heights, and I can hang and brachiate and jump down from those trees. This didn't have that, the very wide branches, and the bark was extremely rough, which I'm not used to. So I get up onto this tree, and it's time for me to get down. And I'm thinking I'm going to do what I normally do. I usually swing down and I jump down out of a tree. In going to swing down, it was cutting up all of my arms. And then
Ouch.
I heard a big snap, and I broke my arm.
You broke your arm.
But
You
I didn't want
broke your
anyone to
arm.
know. I didn't want anyone to know because I've already broken this arm 3 times. So it was my fourth time
Gosh.
to break it. And you know, when you break it, you know, it's like, you know, you hear that. I was like, oh, golly. So I jumped down thinking I was really up high. It was a really high jump. I thought, I'm going to break my legs too, but I got to get off. I just broke my arm. But I didn't want to tell anybody because I knew that it would be the end of my expedition. So I went and sat next to Mateo, and usually when I break my arm, and I didn't think about this, but he brought my attention to it. My arm was shaking because it was going into shock because the pain was so bad. And he's like, Mom, why are you shaking? I said, oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't want to say I broke my arm. And he's like, Mom, you're bleeding. You're really cut. This is really bad. And this is days after we took this picture. So I was already healing. And so I didn't tell anyone. I just thought I'm just going to deal with this. And it wasn't, I think it was just a hairline fracture, because usually when I break, you can see it and then it has to be pulled back into place. I didn't see that. I just think it was a good break that didn't break completely off. I think
How long
normally
did you go without getting medical help?
I didn't. I never
Oh
got medical help.
my God. So how is it now?
I still can't lift. I can't lift still with it yet. I can do about 5 pounds now. It still hurts, but I can do a little bit about five
So it's
pounds now.
healing on its own.
It's healing on its own. And you know, they do. And of course, I talked to I didn't say I had broken it, but I was asking them about broken bones. I was doing a lot of talking about broken bones there. What do you do for broken bones? And even their cattle, even, you know, usually we'll like if a horse gets killed or something, breaks a bone, they'll shoot it because they think it can't. Oh no, they'll splint it, and they said it will heal within 2 weeks. They said the same thing. Oh, we don't do it. You know, we don't really do anything. You might splint it, but they'll heal on their own. So I thought, I'm going to be a Maasai. I'm going to heal on my own. And so that's what I'm doing. And all's good. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody else, but I just didn't want them to have to take me to a hospital and then they say,
Yeah.
you need to go home or
Yeah.
something. No, nothing was going to get in my way. With God, all things are possible. So I
Was
was good.
that the thing that happened to you that you wanted to
That was
say?
the thing. So I
Yeah,
couldn't
that
do
was
a lot of lifting.
okay.
I couldn't do, you know, the thing I wanted to lift. So I couldn't. I was just very minimal on what, so I was using most of my left hand to do most of the things I was doing. And then these were the tribes that we stayed with. But again, the toothbrush, I think this is real powerful for the Maasai and any of the other tribes. Even the Hadzabe, they talked about this, and it was on one of the live Instagrams I did. Their teeth were so gorgeous. And again, they were using this stick. And it's very powerful. And I'm researching it right now. It does have antiseptic properties. It has antimicrobial. It's got so many properties that actually make our teeth, our oral cavity healthier and stronger. It's all from nature.
And do
So
they
these are
actually
things like
use anything like their own sort of
nothing.
toothpaste? Nothing. They just use the
This
wood.
is it. It's just
Hmm.
within the nutrient properties, the healing properties within this. It's amazing. And I'm telling you, there has been research actually done. And I just think we need to talk more about this because they just, and they're very aggressive on it and it just feels so good. And they massage their gums and everything, but they're constantly, if you watch them Maasai, they're constantly either using this or they'll sit down and there's a blade of grass next to them. They get a blade of grass and they're cleaning, like almost like flossing between their teeth. There's always, or a leaf that they'll have. They maintain their oral cavity impeccably, impeccably. But again, their meat, and anyone who says we have to have aged meat and so forth, nothing is aged. It is very tough. Their meat is extremely tough. And watching them chew was unbelievable, chewing through it, because it was taking me like 10, 15 minutes to get through one piece of meat. And they would get through it in like 30 seconds. And I could not believe the strength of their jaws because their meat is extremely tough, extremely, and everything they eat everything. They eat, every, the esophageal, anything they're eating, they don't eat the brain. They do not eat the brain. The Hadzabe do, but they don't eat the brain. But it was remarkable. Tam, I can't tell you how powerful this was. I cannot tell you. I'm
It's so
sorry it took so
powerful.
long. It
Oh
took so long.
gosh, it's so powerful. And like on this slide, you've got all the places where you can be
Here's
followed.
all
So you
my
can be followed on
people.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Yeah, and this is our book that
Mm.
we have, and
Ancestral Diet Revolution. Brilliant.
and it goes, there's different versions and so forth, and this is where you can find us. And we have a new website that will be coming, and we keep saying, but it is going to be here in about a week. It's the Ancestral Health Foundation, and .org that will be coming in about a week. And of course, then there's also Cure AMD, and we're on all of those. So on all of those, you can find us on all of those. But for myself, if you want to find, because I'm right now, I'm kind of, because I'm on so many places. I thought I was losing my mind. And so a lot of what I'm focusing now on right now is putting on everything from this Africa research expedition. And you can find that really on Facebook and Instagram. I'm focusing on those too. On Suzanne Alexander because it's just easier because I want to respond to people. I
Yeah.
want to answer the questions and so forth. And if I've got so many different places to go, I'm getting lost on who I responded to. So that's what we're doing. And I'm so appreciating everything, Tam, that you give me, all the time that you give me to ramble.
Oh, and Suzanne, you've been so generous with your time, and this has been such an incredible conversation. And just the last thing I wanted to ask is, what are you doing next? What's next for you?
um, um,
What is
I
2024 going to be for you?
I'm still researching, and I may go back to Africa. And I'm hoping that I would love to be able to start, because I talk with the chief a lot, and I talk with, of course, Mateo and Tembo, my boys, and I would love to go back and really start the projects of helping to raise money. I think it would cost, I want to do a pilot program, and I want to start it in Mateo's tribe because I know them so well. I would love to start a spigot where I can just drill a spigot and see what it would be like for this family, and to put a solar panel on. There's only like 4 or 5 homes in this boma, to put and see what it would be like for them to have a light
Mm,
bulb in their homes, and then just to see, does it impact their health because they're now not walking far.
mm.
Is that going to change? And I talked to this about the chief, and he didn't think so. He didn't think it would. And I said, but wouldn't? I don't know. I know the men aren't the ones that are going to get the water. It's the women. So would this impact? It would be another study I would love to do.
Yes.
There's just a lot of things. So I'm working on that. And then I'm looking at going to stay with the Eskimos.
Yes.
The only
Incredible.
problem is they've been so infiltrated. They've been so infiltrated. And then I'd also love to go to live, to go to Japan because many of our super centenarians are living there. They're over
Yes.
110. And I
Yes.
loved it, like Okinawa. I want to see
Yes.
what is their diet because they've always talked about the sweet potato. But I know that they're also incorporating, I want to know, are they incorporating pork? Are they incorporating fish? What else? I want to know because everything I read, have always read, and then I go there, it's not what I've been told.
Do you know
It's
what? I
not.
can see like you should do a documentary or
Yeah,
something. Like you should have
yeah.
a proper crew
Yeah, and
because
well,
like the stuff you're
and
finding out is
everyone's like, "It's gonna
incredible.
cost money," and I just say, "Well, I don't have that kind of money, and if unless I'm again, my daughter's like, "Mom, you need to start your own foundation because you're this person that just going solo," and they said, "Start your
Yes.
own foundation." So I may start one that where I can do things to really get out there and just tell the truth because it's not
Yes.
being told. Those who are out saying that they're with the tribes and stuff, I don't know how honest they're really being. Um, because there's some sadness, there's some joys, um, and I just want to be honest with people. I'm not here to side with the vegans, the vegetarians, the carnivores, the paleo, the keto, whoever we are. This is what we see, and but for me, I will say that I think the most optimum people I have seen are eating heavy animal based, heavy animal based, and
Wow.
yeah.
What a way to finish. That what an incredible conversation, Suzanne. And it's always such a joy to speak to you. And like, from our first conversation, which was before you went on your Pacific expedition, to you now, like I can even see the growth in you. Like the way I don't know what it is, the way you speak about your topic, the way you speak about this, it's just so much like now you're super confident. Like before you were confident, but now you're just like reeling off all of these stories and all of these backup and studies. And I'm just like, God, like you're just building, you're growing so much as a person. And I can see it like literally within 4 months. So
Thank
can you
you.
imagine what the next
Oh,
4 years or
I
10
can't,
years?
I cannot imagine. And I mean, if I could have the ability to have, people, because so much of my videos that you see, they were live Instagram and we didn't have internet connection. And so it would short out. And so people had to
Mm.
pause, but to have ongoing film that just runs and it's so smooth and you can just really see and hear every detail, it was powerful. And again, I have the best team in the world, and I said to Mateo and Tembo and Manano, I just said I would take you guys anywhere in the world. They were so protective of me, and they just know me so well. They're like my boys now, and they would never let anything happen to me. And they're so smart, they're so wise because they're Maasai, and they have had they since they were born. This is how you're raised. You're born to be strong and nothing. You're not afraid of anything. But they learned so much, and they said they never imagined that how much they would learn, and they were shocked by going to all the tribes. And even though they go to tribes because that's what they do, they have their own safari company and so forth. But they said this was so different because these were not tourist tribes. These were the real McCoy. They're living, truly ancestral. And most of the tribes that people go to are tourist tribes. They're not really the real thing. Um, so this was powerful, and I'm so blessed that I was able to do this. And Tam, you're such an angel. Thank you.
Oh, this is so special. And I can't wait to see what you're up to. And I'll be following everything. And I recommend everyone else does. And this has been a really special conversation, Suzanne. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Tam, thanks for being there for me. I just adore you. Thank you.